Now you listen to me. I don't want any plastics. I don't want any ground floors. And I don't want to get married to anyone. You understand that? I want to do what I want to do. And you...
Dude, that was spot on. That was spot on.
That was yours.
Put it like...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's perfect spot, actually.
Is it too close to my face?
No, that's perfect.
Okay, I don't want to sound loud.
I'm like having flashbacks to last time because I had my mic on this side when Reed was right there, and I was like, dang, if I had my mic on my mic on this side, it might have caught more of your.
Yeah, maybe.
So I'm like.
Oh, because your mic was the one that wasn't working?
Yeah. No. Zack's
was mine.
But I had my microphone on this side, so I didn't really catch much of what he said. So that was kind of a bummer.
That was a bummer.
Check, because I'm paranoid. Okay, cool.
You in 4K?
No, I'm not. We tried videoing in 4K, and they like took up all my storage for like in like 18 minutes, and the podcast was like an hour long.
Oh my gosh.
So we only got 18 minutes of video.
It happens.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This is kind of crazy that you're here, I think. I really appreciate it because I don't know many people who would be open enough to...
I didn't really think of it like that.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think of it like?
Well, I did... I did tell one of my coworkers, like, when I got back to the office, I was like, I'm going to be on a podcast. Like, how was your meeting? I was like, I'm going to be on a podcast. And they were like, what do you mean? Like, you just met this guy? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know. I've always wanted to be on a podcast.
There is something to it, especially when there's like almost like there's a very, very small audience and there's not another reason to do it other than like if there's no audience, then it just kind of like a more intentional conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It just like feels like
just hanging out.
Yeah, it just but it just feels
making
like
new friends.
Yeah,
exactly.
It feels like a more intentional conversation. But I want to just briefly mention how you're even here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you cold called me out of the blue.
Warm called because I went to B&I.
Technically,
You were a warm lead.
Technically, yeah, but I wasn't at the B&I meeting.
No, you weren't. Mm-mm. And that's what I was telling him was so weird. Still haven't called anyone else on that list. For some reason, okay, we have this thing called call block every Wednesday morning from 8 to 10. Mm-hmm. And if everyone booked a meeting during that time, we got breakfast and coffee for our Friday morning meeting.
That's sick.
And so I needed to book a meeting. I don't know if yours was the first one I booked or because I actually ended up booking 2, came back at the end and we all got breakfast and coffee. But that's why I had that. I still have that list on my desk just sitting there. I just picked out a name and called you and you were really nice. I was like, heck yeah. And then I just stopped there because I didn't want to test my luck and call someone else from the list.
Wow.
But the meeting that you went to, I had a sub, so you didn't even meet me. So
because I remember there was a guy that, he was like reading off the phone to give your pitch.
Yeah.
Great.
I gave him a pitch because I knew that he was going to talk too much, and you only get 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's like disrespectful if you go over 30 seconds. It's like, here's what to say. Just read it. And he was like pretty nervous. So
I could tell he was nervous.
But he's
not a public speaker.
Yeah. He's a public speaker. Yeah, no, he's not a public speaker. He's a regular speaker. He just likes to talk. But so we met at Starbucks and I just went. I mean, I knew that you did payroll services, but I also just knew you went to B&I, and in B&I you just kind of meet people to meet, like literally part of the curriculum. Well, you're part of your assignment really throughout the week is to meet with at least one person. And so I was like, well,
that's why I knew someone from that list would say yes.
Yeah. Seriously.
Maybe I'll do that this Wednesday morning too. I'll get another B&I person.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Get my numbers up.
Like, I had never heard of B&I.
B&I is Business Networking International, and it's it's a bunch of networking groups across the world, and the whole concept of it is networking but with accountability. And so you have to get these things called one-to-ones, which are exactly what Carly and I had.
Okay.
And you log them all in an app. And they have these things called CEUs, which are continual education units, because BNI has a vast network of content that you have to watch pretty much an hour a week. And then you're supposed to bring visitors, and you're supposed to give referrals. The whole point of BNI is to give referrals.
So do you get credit for meeting with me?
No, because you're not in the group.
Oh, darn.
But yeah, so that's why the whole philosophy is like givers gain. So you have to put a lot of output into the group before you ever start receiving referrals.
Yeah, okay.
So you have to build trust. And so
you meet with people
in the group,
you meet with like a group of people
regularly. Yeah, so you have an hour and a half meeting once a week with everyone, and you get 30 seconds.
Like in person or online?
Ours is hybrid, so most of the time, 3 weeks it's in Zoom. One time it's in person, and you give 30-second presentations each time. So you kind of have to have your pitch down. And so the whole point is to get awareness to these other business owners, so you all cross-pollinate referrals. And then each person gets a 7-minute presentation like twice a year during a meeting. So each meeting you have 2 7-minute presentations. But she just came as a visitor. And so we just met just kind of to meet. I knew that we didn't even need payroll services. But I was like, the whole thing of BNI is you never know what is going to come of a meeting.
Yeah. And that's why when I called you, I remember I was like, I always use this. Yeah, I'm just really new to town, like just trying to meet business people like in business. And then usually because it's less threatening than like, my intention was actually never it was more of a networking thing. To sell, because, you know.
Networks. But the point of BNI is like most other networking groups fail because there's no accountability inside the group, but BNI has a really, really, really good system by which you're rewarded for more time in your presentations weekly if you meet all your requirements. So the more requirements you meet, the more time you get to pitch. And so I know. And if you don't, you're not in the green. Like if you do all that stuff, you're in the green and you get more time. But if you're not, you're in the yellow and then in the gray, and so you can end up getting kicked out if you don't. So there's accountability to show up, and even if there wasn't, like, you need accountability because you get so busy that you're just like, it's just another meeting.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, so that's how we met, and then we just started talking random. Like we just started on a random conversation, started to get to know each other. Like, where are you from? Da 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 da, and then I think you asked me about like dating or something.
Okay, here's what happened. You mentioned that you were 24 and married. 24?
23. Yeah.
23, excuse me. And married. And I was like, what? Because I haven't come across that many people our age, some getting engaged, but like full on marriage. And that was really interesting to me, and I wanted to hear more about it because it seemed like you had a good head on your shoulders and had to pick the male brain because of the book I'm reading.
Exactly. And so I want to put a pin in that because I want to come back to that. But
it was after I left, I was like, I just like talked to this stranger for an hour about like.
No, it was 2 hours.
2 hours about male psychology and brains, and was asking him all these questions.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
And at the very end, I was like,
that's awesome.
I was like, dang, do I tell her about this whole like second flow experience idea? That's kind of wild. This is a whole different category of my life. And and I was like, sure, why not? And then you're like, that's a cool idea. And then I was like, dang, do I invite her on the podcast?
I could tell you were a little like, didn't know if you should or not while you were asking.
Yeah, I was like, am I about to get like hard rejected in my face right now? She's like,
and then I got really excited.
She came to sell me, and I'm about to try to sell her. I'm coming on the podcast to my house that she's never been to before. She just met me. But you mentioned that you graduated from A&M recently.
In May.
But in May. But what degree did you?
Oh, wow.
What degree did you get?
I studied biomedical science. So.
And so, yeah.
Wow.
And so you were telling me that you wanted to go to
podiatry school.
Yes.
Podiatry school. Yep. That was what I wanted to do. Up until like halfway through junior year. When I was like 28 days out from my MCAT is when I made the decision I didn't want to do that anymore.
And the MCAT's the big test, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you got this job offer to come to Austin. And then what happened?
So I moved to Austin for a different job than I actually ended up working because they were a lot of people when I was graduating I think they still are in hiring freezes. And so I kind of jumped at the first job that was offered to me because like I didn't even have a LinkedIn. I had no like business presence, up until like this time last year, actually, when I was like, oh, I need to go to like a career fair, right? All of my friends are going like med, dental. They're all doing that. None of them, like, I felt really on my own for this because I had made all my friends through my classes. So I accepted a job to come here to work in healthcare recruiting. So I was going to be like placing travel nurses on their assignments, which I thought would be cool. But that it ended up not working out.
I did something similar to that.
Really?
Yeah, I was, do you know what a locum tenens is? It's basically like a travel doctor or nurse, but they're like a substitute.
Oh.
So, like, if a doctor at a facility is, like, going on vacation or something and they need a sub, then, like, they'll pay what they call them locum tenens. It's like a Latin phrase.
Oh.
They'll pay doctors to, like, travel and be their doctor.
That's
like,
cool.
For a month or however long. Yeah. So I was a recruiter for that.
Did you like recruiting? No. Yeah, now that I didn't get into it, I've heard not so good things about it.
I heard a lot of really good things about it before I got into it.
I didn't know. I was like, that's pretty much sales. I wanted to go into sales because I talk a lot and I'm very extroverted, not very shy. And I thought that, I think that that's like what my strongest asset is my personality and my extrovertedness. So that's why I did that. But then, so a week before they're like, never mind, you can't really work here until they actually were like, we don't really know when. And I was like, okay, well, I was like, someone moved from Wisconsin for this job. They told me. And I was like, I just moved to a city where I don't know anyone, but at least my parents are 3 hours south. Like, this person just got on a plane, I guess, and moved here and then got their job ripped away. So,
dude, it's crazy how people do that.
Yeah, I just went off on LinkedIn and I actually was able to get the job I am currently at within 3 weeks. I started like 3 weeks after I was supposed to be starting the other job. They signed me on and a week later I flew to Ohio for training. So it was a really quick turnaround and I was very grateful for it. I still am. Like, anytime I have a rough day at work, I'm like, I like need to be more grateful because who knows what, I could still be unemployed. Like it takes just so long. So
That's terrifying.
That's what brought me to Austin, but I never wanted to move to Austin. I never wanted to go to UT because I didn't want to live in Austin.
Really?
And so I got a job here. I wanted to move to Dallas because my brother and my cousin are there. Mm-hmm. But I was like, no, you know what? Like, I'll just take this job. And I moved here. And so I'm glad that happened because I wouldn't be in Austin. And I love Austin now.
So what made you want to go to Texas A&M?
Basic answer, the tradition. My cousin, who's like my bestest friend in the world, she played soccer for Texas A&M. Wow. And so I'd go up and watch her play her games. Mm-hmm. And that's when I first kind of discovered Texas A&M because my mom went to UT, my brother went to UT. Oh, nice. So, but I love Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. And everyone there was always so friendly. Mm. I really like, everyone's so bought into the culture. Mm. So I really like that. And it really did feel like a big family. And I think a lot of people have that experience at all the different colleges they go to. And like, I'm sure you guys can relate because we've talked a little bit about your college, but it's like there's just like a vibe while you're there that you just like, once you're outside of it, you're like, no one else can understand this and like no one else is experiencing this and it's awesome. But that's
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I bet. But yeah, that's what brought me to A&M and that was a good decision for me, I think. I think it was a good fit. And it's weird to me that Austin's a good fit for me too because I feel like they're so opposite.
Really?
But yeah.
Wow.
College have you been to College Station? Have you?
No.
What? At UT?
College Station, Texas A&M.
Oh, no, I haven't.
So it's more of like a farm kind of town. It's not a big city. It's a college town. And it's just like everything is just kind of like, I mean, there's a campus across the street is like the bar district and all the bars are in like one place. So like if you go out at night, you're going to see everyone you know. And if they're not at the bar you're at, they're 5 feet away. Yeah, so it was a big sense of like...
It's like the college is like everything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Like-
I went to my friend, or really like one of my best friends went to University of Alabama, and so I went and visited him. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah, that's what I've
Tuscaloosa.
heard.
It's like
That's what
it's
I've heard.
just a college town.
It's all
Everything
revolving
is
around
all
like
about-
football. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really liked that.
It is a cool vibe though.
It's nice to be able to see familiar faces everywhere you go. That's what I really liked about A&M. And I was really sad to move because of that, like torn up about it. But then I realized now that I'm gone, like most of my friends are also kind of dispersed. So even if I stayed there,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah.
Where did you go to high school then?
I went to a Catholic school in Corpus Christi called Incarnate Word Academy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you
Catholic
grew up
school?
in Corpus Christi.
Yeah, born and raised until I went to college.
How was that?
Catholic school,
In Corpus Christi.
Corpus Christi. I'm grateful for growing up in Corpus Christi. I think it's a unique experience living like on the beach basically.
Yeah.
Like my church, I think I mentioned this to you. I had the coolest church ever back home. It's an outdoors church and like you could just show up like after a day at the beach and they'll welcome you there and have that. So
Wait. You said it's an outdoor.
it's outdoors.
church?
There's indoors for when there's bad weather.
Huh.
Yeah. I have a picture
How
I
does
can
that
show you
work?
guys
Like,
later.
It's like a service outside.
Yeah.
What?
Really?
Yeah, it's, oh my gosh, it's like I've never been able to find a church with the same like, well, so okay, there's like Corpus Christi and then there's Padre Island. I lived in the town of Corpus Christi. Padre Island is kind of like 25 minutes away. So we would drive all the way out there for church every weekend because that's just where my mom had started going. And so we went there. So I didn't even live on the island, but I went to church on the island every weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, but Corpus had its ups and downs for sure. I think the farther I'm removed from it, like the more fond I become of it, which like I love to go back. I'm glad I don't live there now, but I love to go back. And
How
then
long is that drive?
3 hours, 3.5.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Not too bad at all. Yeah, so it's okay. And then Catholic school I liked the experience because I feel like everyone was very tight knit, but that has pros and cons, of course.
Yeah.
My graduating class was like 64.
Okay.
I know
So
that's like.
yeah.
Yeah, I went to like a small private Christian school.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Did you go
I
to?
went to a small public school, so my graduating class was like 80 something, 83.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in a
Mine
public
was-
school.
I think mine was like 50 something.
Yeah. So you guys know. Yeah. So
It was very clicky.
very clicky.
Okay.
Very clicky.
Was
yeah.
your church Catholic too? Or okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You strike me as someone who does not do well with cliques.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I've been reflecting on high school a lot lately. Don't know why. But I always felt, this is also, okay, so when I went to A&M, this is also why I was so distraught to leave. Because I was like, for the first time, like I still have good friends back from Corpus, but for the first time, I feel like I absolutely fit in with the group of people I have. And I feel like when I'm places, like I would have people come up to me and be like, Carly, we love having you here and stuff like that. And like, or like if I wasn't somewhere and they called me and wanted me there, I knew they really wanted me there. They weren't just like, oh, we should probably invite Carly. Like it was like, get here now. Let's go do whatever. And so that was hard for me to leave. And I didn't feel like I had that at my school. I feel like I was well liked because I was like class clown, extroverted, crazy, high energy, bouncing off the walls all the time.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of good friends, but it was just like, I don't know. There was always just something that made me feel like I wasn't like fully a part of the group of friends I was in. I think that's just comes with high school though, also. And especially in females.
That's funny you say that. Like I had a very similar experience in public school, but I'm curious because I think the cliche in my head for Catholic was it Catholic school or Catholic girls school?
It was co-ed.
Okay, so in my head I just see like very strict. I think a lot of people would think like very strict, like they probably paddle you. There's nuns everywhere. What was it really like?
So, it was strict, and it was just, they'd make us, like, we had, like, this is, like, one of my funniest memories at Idaho. We had this ceremony called Ring and Rose. I don't know if that's, like, a common thing, but when you're a senior, you pass down like your class rings that no one got from the Catholic school. So class rings, and then the junior, you basically, it's like a mentorship. So like the junior gives the senior a rose, and like, for example, I was soccer captain when I was a senior. I passed down like the soccer captain band, like stupid stuff like that. But it was sweet.
It's a cool concept.
It was a cool concept, but I was like, also had been the soccer captain for like maybe 1 month at that point. So because I joined the team, that's a crazy other story, but it was just like, I just felt like wrong because I was like looking like I was giving this legacy, like, no, that people probably forgot I even did that. But that's what I was gonna say. So I remember they made the girls all line up in the hall and put their hands down to see how, if your skirt was long enough.
Gotcha.
And if it wasn't, either you had to go home and change. I remember I had to call my mom because I had like, it was like that thick, but too much of my shoulders were showing. So I had to call my mom to bring me like a cardigan, and she was like, I already left. I guess I'll stop at Ann Taylor Loft. Like, I don't know, because I lived on the other side of town from where I went to school. And so I told them, I was like, does my mom really need to stop and buy me a sweater right now? Like, and they let it slide. But it was just little stuff like that, which was, but yeah, there was nuns. We were taught by nuns. Okay. I had a great relationship with two of the nuns, actually. One of them, not as much, but yeah, I had one of them I would literally text.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because she was my persuasive speaking coach. Okay. Because I was on the persuasive speaking team, and so like we had a great relationship, but I don't think everyone had that experience with them. So,
really?
Yeah.
That's cool. I actually had kind of a similar experience with the dress code. My public school was very small, like small Texas country town conservative, and so like shoulder strap dress, like the whole thing. They did that. They wouldn't line them up, but they would just like, hey.
Yeah,
like and 3 finger length on the.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're drawing more attention to what you see to be inappropriate by going into a classroom full of boys and girls and making all the girls go outside. Like, it's just like, I don't know. No one. I think some people might have dressed a little crazy, but like the overwhelming majority, it's embarrassing to be like, oh, okay, she needs to go home. Like, okay, guys, I'll be back in an hour and a half. Need to go find a new outfit. But yeah, we wore khaki shorts down to here, because they they did away with skirts before I reached high school because girls were wearing them too short. So we had to wear.
So did you guys have to wear uniforms?
Yeah, uniforms. It was like khaki, blue or black shorts or pants, and a polo.
Okay, yeah, ours was maroon, white, or black.
Really?
Khaki pants or shorts and polos. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I remember every day I would just wear like a huge sweater. So like, because I just hated, or like going in public after school was so embarrassing.
Oh, I know, dude.
I was on a commercial. Gosh. I was on a commercial for this foundation I volunteered for, wearing my khakis down to here. It was so embarrassing, but I didn't have time to go home and change.
Dang.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. So, can you describe a little bit more your experience going from that closed off culture to something like A&M where did you feel like you really got to blossom?
Yeah, but it was really hard at first. I had my first panic attack at fish camp. Have you guys heard of fish camp?
No.
Fish camp is where it's a huge Aggie tradition. All freshmen go in the summer before you start college, and you learn all like the chants and whatever and this and that. And it's like 3 or 4 nights and whatever. It's like a camp experience. And I remember I was not in a sorority. I went there and that's all anyone would talk about was Greek life, sorority and fraternities. And like a few days in, I had made some friends, and a few days in, they brought that up. And I was like, no, I'm not rushing. They stopped saving me a seat. When we went to all of the stuff, they stopped saving me a seat. And so that really hurt my feelings. And then that's what happened. I went in and I didn't know where to sit for breakfast, and I freaked out, and I thought I was going to die. I'd never had a panic attack. I literally thought I was going to die or throw up or something, but I ended up being fine. But so it was really overwhelming for me going from a class of 60 to there's like 70,000 students at Texas A&M.
Yeah,
whoa.
I couldn't even.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that, I think I adjusted like pretty decently. But yeah, I think that I was able to, I guess, blossom just because you're able to be more like, okay, do I fit in here or do I like these people? Do we align in college because there's so many people?
Yeah. And it's kind of like a fresh start. Like
Yeah.
when you first go.
Yeah.
It is. And yeah, it is like a fresh start. And so I had a college roommate who we didn't like each other in high school because of boy drama. And then we ended up being friends. And the second year or my sophomore year, so we were just like this, like we were identified together. And my sophomore year, she ended up like moving home and she just wasn't doing well mentally at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And like that, I think, is when I really grew up because
Really? Because you had to let
yeah, I was like,
go of her.
well, there went my best friend. And everyone for months would ask me where she was every time we went out. And I was like, maybe, I mean, this was definitely a good step for her because she wasn't feeling like she was flourishing or happy at Texas A&M. So she went home. And then I think it was good for me as well because I was able to become myself. We had morphed into one. Like we did everything together.
Yeah.
And so I think that's when I really grew up and I was able to make better relationships with the friends I still have now because it was just like me. They liked me. They didn't like, oh, like who I was when I was with this girl or like, cause I don't think that's who I really was. I think it was just comfortable to morph into like one person.
Really?
Yeah.
If you had to go back and tell your 18-year-old self graduating high school, going to A&M, like what are some things you would tell yourself?
I don't think about that often, but
Like pieces of advice, like, oh, hey, don't forget to, don't lose your key.
yeah.
Don't lock yourself out of your dorm room.
That's a tough question.
Yeah,
kinda like
that happened to me a few times. I think it would just be, I think maybe like I wish I was more confident back then in my capabilities maybe. So lighten up on the schoolwork.
Okay.
People can be smarter than you.
Ooh.
That's something I think you need to understand. I became really self-aware when I was in my last maybe year of college.
Yeah.
That it's not a competition. That's how I felt going into
Really?
chemistry freshman year. Everyone here wants to be a surgeon and I want to be a surgeon and they're trying to weed us out because that's how biomedical science was. They give you these really hard classes and they make it miserable because they don't want the weak to succeed.
Yeah.
So I always saw if I was failing, it's because I was weak and I wasn't smart. So I think that's the advice I'd give myself was to kind of understand that just because you're not good at one class doesn't mean you're not good overall or that you're not smart. I'm probably better at something else. And I think I held on to the thought of not wanting to be the one to fail out of all my friends for so long that's why halfway through junior year when I was about to take my MCAT, I was like, I don't want to do this. And so granted, I'm so glad I never changed my major because I think it's very interesting what I learned. And I think it's invaluable information. And I loved how this specialization of it, even though I'm not really using it, I still read that stuff for fun. But I think my college path would have kind of been different if I had been more self-aware at 18.
What do you think helped you become more self-aware in your senior year? Because when I was talking to you, I noticed you were very self-aware, and it's very rare. It's a more rare trait than you realize if you are self-aware, because you're like, well, everyone must be like this, must think like this, but it's really not true.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What brought that about?
I just think it got to a point where. And I don't ever want to come across as cocky when I say this, but I just knew the capabilities I had from my life, and I didn't see myself reaching my full potential with the way I was trying to go. So if I went to podiatry school, medical school, I knew I'm not going to be the top of my class. So she's still one of my best friends. Her name's Gracie. She's one of the smartest girls I've ever met. She's in veterinary school right now. We'd study together for hours upon hours every week. And we would sit there and she's like, you know it. And I'm like, okay, let's go take this test. I'd get a 60 and she'd get a 95. And I'd be like, we know, and I just realized, and I think Gracie helped me realize, like, her brain works the way it should for this major, and mine clearly doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think that was like a beautiful thing for me, because it was never, I never felt jealousy. I never felt like, why can't I have what she has? It was just like, this is not for me. So I don't know how I was able to think that way, like, and it not be jealousy. Now talking about it, I'm really surprised it wasn't, because I mean, it sucked, but I think she was just such a supportive friend, and she never made me feel like I was stupid. And so I think if she made me feel stupid, I probably would have felt more jealousy.
Yeah.
But I felt so supported by her, and I could tell she wanted me to succeed. Like, she'd probably study for 4 extra hours when she knew everything, because she knew that I really needed help.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it was. It was kind of hard to take the step and tell everyone, like, no, I'm not. I canceled my MCAT. I'm not doing that, because I knew everyone was going to think I was failing. But I just knew that a career path for me doesn't involve going to that. So I just held on to that, and I think, I don't know.
Wow.
That's huge.
So I'm curious just on what it was like for you. I'm assuming you were raised Catholic, and then you went to this Catholic school, and then you went from that environment to something like Texas A&M. And I know for some people that might be like kind of a taboo topic, but for us, like we both studied like religion, philosophy, Bible theology. So we just enjoy hearing about that from other people, and kind of part of this podcast, we want it to be more of like we want to like talk to people who have different faiths and different ideas, different beliefs. And so I kind of want to know, what was it like for you? Did you like going from that environment where everything you did was wrapped around church, and your whole school even was wrapped around church, to a place where it's like, well, man, I don't have to go to church if I don't want to, or I could. I'm sure there was a Catholic community inside of Texas A&M. You could have got involved there. Like, what was that like for you?
I'm glad you bring that up, because that's actually like, that's something that I wish I could have handled better.
Really?
I spoke about how much I loved my church back home, and then I went to Texas A&M, and back home growing up, I'd go to mass twice a week. Nice. Because we had to go with school, and then I'd altar serve every weekend at my church. Okay. So I was there twice a week. And
wait, what's altar serve?
Okay, so altar serving is, have you guys ever been to a Catholic mass? You know the kids that wear like the white robes and carry the cross up? Yeah. That's altar serving. Oh, okay. And you just help the priest out with all of the communion and cleaning everything. So that's what I did. And I wasn't very involved in like any sort of like youth groups or anything, because I mean, I went to Catholic school already. So I didn't really need that supplemented. But I'm really grateful for my experience at Catholic school, because I think I came out a lot different than not all my friends, the majority of my friends. I was in the minority where I stayed strong in my faith. Yeah. Or at least my faith within the Catholic Church. Yeah. Most of my friends came out hating Catholic, like hating the whole religion. So I moved to Texas A&M, and I truthfully did not go to mass, like, honestly, like, more than a handful of times while I was there. Yeah. Because I didn't like the church. It was just so different and traditional, and mine was so laid back, and I couldn't adjust.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so
I feel like Catholics are known usually for being very traditional.
But that's why I loved my church, because it was so different. And like, I think everything you think of when you think of a Catholic church, if I took you guys to mass at my church, you'd be like, what? Like, it's so different. They had a rule that homilies, which like sermons, could not be more than 15 minutes. Wow. Yeah, they wanted to keep the mass under 45 minutes. I had great relationships with all of my priests there, because I was an altar server. The deacon, which is that only Catholic deacons?
No, some churches have like Pentecostal, like it depends. Yeah. Deacons, elders.
The deacon was my confirmation sponsor. So I was just like, I had a great.
Can you explain confirmation?
So confirmation is like you get baptized when you're born. As a Catholic, when you're in 2nd grade, you get your first communion. And then when you're 15, 16, I was a sophomore, you do confirmation, which is a sacrament, which is basically just like reiterating your faith, that you're a believer, and getting like confirmed in your faith.
Okay.
Can you
yeah.
explain a sacrament just for people?
Oh, okay, yeah. So a sacrament, there's 7 of them, and it's just there's like anointing of the sick, which I got that, which was super cool.
Anointing of the sick.
Yeah, baptism, and then also matrimony. Like that's a sacrament. These are just like milestones you reach within your faith, or like confession. Catholics go to confession.
Yeah.
So it's just like the holy sacraments are things that belong to the Catholic Church that you, as like I guess a firm Catholic, should participate in.
Gotcha. Okay, so this priest was, you said, what did you say before I cut you off? That he was your
My deacon was my confirmation
your deacon was your
sponsor.
confirmation sponsor.
Which most people have their like godmother or father or someone of that sort. But I had my priest my deacon, just because I felt like he was someone who really supported me in my faith, and I chose him to do it, which was really cool. And I think I love to go home and see him now, and it's just like kind of like God grandfather vibes that I get from him. So I was just really involved at my church, and then I went to Texas A&M and I wasn't involved, and I did try really hard at the beginning to get involved, not in necessarily the Catholic community, but just Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd go to like Breakaway, which was kind of ministry thing that they had on Tuesday nights. And then I joined a Bible study, but my Bible study ghosted me. And I was really upset by that. And after that, I was really upset. And that was kind of like the end of like me trying to seek out.
Wait, the entire Bible study?
So, okay, me and my cousin went to this thing called Camp Gladiator, which was like a workout thing. And we had met people that ran a Bible study through it. It was a very small Bible study. But she apparently, she had personal issues, but she just didn't communicate it. But my cousin found out later because she ran into her at HEB why the Bible study fell apart. But that for some reason like really affected me, because I think I finally found people to talk to about this stuff. Finally. And then it was gone.
What a drop ball.
I know. And the people that I was around in college were not like avid churchgoers. So yeah, that's something I've been trying to get back to since I moved here to Austin, because I was like, okay, after going to church 2 times a week for my whole life, and then going 4 years with probably going only like less than 10 times, I need to get back to that. So I've been trying to make it a priority, but when you
don't have like the same community that you had before, it makes it very difficult. And when you think you finally found one, and then it all just falls apart. I mean, that's normal to be. You just found your community somewhere else. And those people just happened to not help you find a good church to go to. That's all that happened. Seems like.
But I think it was just like, looking back on it, it was a long time for me to let that part of my life kind of just go away. But I think it was just like, when you're in college, you just get like caught up. Like, I don't feel like I was there for 4 years.
For sure. Yeah.
So looking back, I'm like, that was such a long time. But realistically, I wasn't thinking about it very often. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So what about now? Like, are you going to a Catholic church now?
I've went to one a few times. One of my friend that I mentioned, that's from home, from Corpus. She's also goes to Catholic church. And so I've been going with her, and I like that church. I went to another church, and I didn't like it as much. I think like shopping around for churches is very real. Like I feel discouraged when I go there, and I feel like out of place, or like I don't like they're just all just so traditional being Catholic. And I need to like get over the fact that none of them are going to be as laid back as the one I went to that was outdoors on the island. So
I mean, that's kind of hard to be. Like that sounds so sick cool. Church to be a part of.
That's going to be hard.
It's so awesome. I love going home, and that's like when I go home, I look forward to going to church, right? So I was like, I just need to find that here that I can like not want to go and be like, oh, I have to sit through that. Like, be kind of like excited to go and learn. So I'm still kind of looking for that, but I do like the one that I've been going to with my friend. So, and it helps being with a friend.
That's really interesting that you're, I think what you're saying is a huge indicator that all churches should like really pay attention to for young adults is like what you just said was I really enjoyed the church I went to because number one, it was laid back. I didn't feel judged. I didn't feel pushed away. I felt accepted for who I was, but I also felt like I was learning there. I felt like I was interested in what they were saying. You said they respected your time and they did it in a way that was fun.
Yeah.
And I think that is so lost on especially what the traditional churches that you're going to. It's difficult for you, even with a lifetime of faith backing you up, it is even difficult for you to feel like you want to go.
Yeah.
And I want to point something out that I would argue I don't think that there's anything wrong with that or wrong with you for that.
Yeah.
I think it is the church's lack of understanding where our generation is at that keeps them from having the numbers of young adults that they want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just like being Catholic, it's not oriented towards young people, the Catholic Church at all.
Really?
No, I wouldn't say so. It's just very, I mean, traditional. It's just so traditional. Yeah. And I like that about it because I went to Texas A&M, I like tradition. But there needs to be a happy medium. You need to engage, like they need to engage people. They, like you said, you need to want to be there. And like, this might be bad, but I'd rather not go to church and pray at home and like, than go to church and God know that I'm miserable sitting there. That's the way I think about it, because I would feel guilty of how much I didn't want to be there, but it's just because I didn't like the way the priest gave his homilies or this or that. And it's just kind of like with anything, like you need to find a fit for you. And it's like, it's not that I don't like the Catholic Church. It's not that I don't like that priest. It's just, it wasn't a fit for the way I wanted to learn.
Yes.
So.
Exactly. And you shouldn't feel guilty for that.
Yeah, but I would feel so guilty because I'd be like, is this almost over? And then I'd be like, I'm horrible. Or like, I'm like tuning out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I drove all the way here and now I'm dazing off. Like, it's so bad. So that's a journey I'm still on.
Seems like you're ruminating on something.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Because, I mean, it's just interesting, like, the things that we want. Like, there are people who enjoy having a very traditional service and, like, it just be super chill. They might enjoy it if it's, like, kind of long. I mean, there's people that complain when service is too short.
Yeah.
Right? So it's
for
like,
sure.
It's just interesting to see how people think about church and, like, their preferences of, like, what they think a service should be like and whatever.
And you can't make everyone happy, which that's why I'm saying.
That's the thing.
I think, when you go to a church and you don't enjoy it, it's not a bad church. It's just like not a fit for your personality and the way you like to listen and learn.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something coming out of high school, I grew up in, my school was a part of a church. So I grew up in like the Christian bubble, like all my life. And then we went to a Christian university. And coming out of like the Christian school and everything, like, you know, we talked about all these like frustrations that we have with churches, and I realized, I guess, like, what am I trying to say? What was it? What were we just talking about?
How hard it is for
sometimes it just like slipped my mind.
Some people to really, sometimes for us to feel like we're really.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I remember like being super frustrated with like all these things about the church, and you know, it's very easy to just like complain about it and be really, I don't know. It's very aggravating when you see like the things that pastors do and like all these things that just are really annoying. But then you come to realize that like, okay, no church is ever gonna be like absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And so that's something where I kind of had to like mature in my thinking a little bit, because I think because you said with your church back home, like a big impact for you was the people there, and you felt like you really connected with them. I think that's the most important thing of church. Is finding people that you can connect with and build that community. And that's why I think when going to A&M, you felt like you were a part of a community. And that's like, well, we felt like going to school.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, that's what I was about to say. Like, I think my church, I felt so supportive and loved. Like, I would have like fundraisers at my church, and they'd like, everyone would come out and support me, and I just felt like so loved by those people. And then to go to a church after going to the same church for 18 years, getting baptized there, and then having to leave and going into a room where no one knows who you are and no one even notices you're there. I think maybe that's where the disconnect was, because I was used to feeling so supportive and people coming up to me and chatting with me at the end of mass and saying they were happy to see me. Like, little things like that go a long way, I guess, with me. And when I didn't have that, I do remember the first Catholic church I went to here in Austin, the priest stopped me on the way out and was like, you're new here, aren't you? You've never been here before. And I was like, see, this is how all churches need to be. Like, because, you know, they do say at the end, like, stand up if it's your first time here. I'm extroverted, but I'm not going to do that. I don't know. I want people clapping at me for going to church. So I don't do that. But I thought, like, smaller churches like that are a better fit for me than, like, a huge church where you don't even, like, run into the people that you know. So, yeah, I don't know.
So real, Carly.
So real. Also, I think something that I've had to become more comfortable with, especially after leaving IWA, was just because I don't agree with something that I hear within the Catholic Church doesn't mean that I'm a bad Catholic. That is something.
Can you expound upon that?
I just think, like, I mean, it's no secret that there's a lot of, like, I guess, strife between the Catholic Church and political communities and just other religions, and it's just people kind of, I feel like, will look at me sometimes in a bad light and have such a opinion on what I believe. But it's just like, why don't you sit here and ask me about these topics that you don't agree with, that the Catholic Church agrees with, and see if I even agree with it. Because just because I'm a Catholic doesn't mean I follow a rule book of everything. I think, and there's times I thought about, is the Catholic Church a good fit for me? This was in high school. And I thought about it, and I was like, there's a lot of the Catholic Church that I do identify with, and I do feel like I agree with, but that doesn't mean that every single thing I agree with. But anything, I feel like anything's like that. Like, even like I said, like, politically, like, you're not going to agree with every single thing if you identify with a party. So, like, it's like, not to say that those are very comparable, but it's just an example. Like,
I think they are comparable.
I agree.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, yeah.
I think so. Like, I mean, because
In the broader sense.
churches, people get so upset over differences in, like, policies or doctrination or doctrine, and so, like, I think it's the same thing with politics, for sure. Like, you can look past those things and still have a conversation with somebody.
And that's what has always upset me. Or, like, I would witness the people in my high school just hating on the Catholic Church because they've had bad experiences. But
the Catholic Church, I feel like, gets a really bad rap.
It does. But honestly, I had, like, a bad experience in Catholic school not till I was 17 or 18 with one of the nuns there. And I remember thinking, and I think going home and telling my mom, this is why all my friends hate the Catholic Church, because people like this who receive, like, these sacraments are the highest up people in the Catholic Church and are mistreating and disrespecting young children. I was like, it makes sense. And I'm not mad at my friends anymore for straying away from their faith. And I'm lucky that it took till I was 18 and strong enough in my faith for one person to not push me away. But I was like, that makes sense. So
that is just, that is so wise. Like, that is just, it's so wise for you to understand that, because I think a big disadvantage of youth is this sort of ignorance where it's like, it's either this way or that way. There's no in between. And I think it's only when you get older that you realize, or I believe that it's only through a relationship with God that you start to get this wisdom. That's like, oh, this is wisdom beyond my years. I should not have this normally. And it's only then that you start to realize, oh, there are little gray areas here that I can operate in, or I don't have to be one or the other. It can be both and, not either.
Some people never grow out of that.
Some people never.
Some people don't.
It's always just black and white. Dude.
But
they can never understand anything.
I think that goes with everything, because I remember we were talking about this when we were having coffee. Like, it's hard to see something or hear something that you don't agree with and be able to just move past it and take with a grain of salt that and continue to hear and learn about and agree with other parts of something.
Yeah.
But there's going to be...
Without like hating the other person.
Yes. So...
I want to point out that it's very interesting that when Zach and I first started talking about this whole concept of this second floor experience and this whole, like we have this whole coffee shop dream.
By the way, I told my coworkers about that and they thought it was a good idea.
Really?
Because they were like, wait, and they wanted me to elaborate when I came back because I was going to podcast. But they thought it was a good idea, so.
That's so cool. And so, but it's not just the coffee shop is just another venue. Like it's just an excuse to meet, just like a podcast is an excuse to have an intentional conversation with someone. And the very people that we want a part of that community are literally exactly like you. And so it's fascinating to me that we met when
so randomly
we had just randomly when we had just launched this podcast. And so I want to point out to someone who out there who is like, oh, you have this big dream that you want to pursue. We just started this with no idea who we were going to have on. We had nobody lined up. We had zero audience, pretty much zero following on any social media platform. Like there's no logical reason why we should have started this and then been able to meet someone like you. But it's the fact that we just went for it in faith and decided like, okay, Lord, like, okay, God, you want us to start this. You want us to try to build up this really cool dream, whatever. You are the kind of person that we want at that coffee shop to build community there. Because I really believe that people with a church, with an organization, a company, anything, if the community is not there, people don't want to be there.
Very true.
If there's not someone coming up to you at church saying, oh my gosh, Carly, how was your week? It's so good to see you. You don't want to go back.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
And communities should have that aspect to them. And I just think it's so interesting that we met and everything that you're talking about now that we did not talk about the first time. These are all new things that I'm hearing, that each time you say something, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're the kind of person that we want to be hanging out with at the coffee shop, just having good conversation.
Yeah.
All the time. Like these are things that we enjoy doing. So I just wanted to point that out. But on the topic of this, I had pitched you, or I told you the idea, this whole idea that we had that we have about having a coffee shop where people, specifically more geared towards our generation, in your 20s, late teens, early 30s, can come meet and just have community, have conversation. And I think our conversation kind of geared more towards the dating life, because you had asked me about young marriage and all this stuff, and sort of your just annoyance of the traditional dating world, or I would say like cultural dating world right now.
Yeah.
Like, can you expound upon that, of how like frustrated you were and are about that?
You just came in angry.
I mean, just like a point of, it's so hard to meet someone that's not a bar, or it's so hard to meet someone that's not at a club or whatever. Like it's
or Hinge,
or Hinge, or even like the gym. It's difficult to meet people.
Yeah. I just think that my frustrations with it is the lack of transparency between people that have interest or lack of interest in one another. I think that's where my frustration was coming from, because I think in our generation, everyone's just on their high horse and they don't want to be the one to show their heart and feel things and get embarrassed. And no one wants to, oh, she likes him so much. Like no one, or vice versa. I know a lot of guys who will never admit that they actually really like this girl for who she is, And so that's where my frustration has come from. Just moving. We kind of talked about it. I went through a breakup that I don't think that really, we fully broke up until I moved away. And so when I came here, that was just like, I've been on I guess my healing journey coming out of that relationship. And I've just been very disheartened, because I was like, okay, I got out of this relationship, which was not good for me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go meet so many great people. And the exact opposite happened when I moved here. A lot of people I was meeting, which, I mean, when you go to the bars, I go to the bars, I'm a good person, but you can't expect to go to the bars and meet a quality, great person every time, because people are drinking and people are this and that. So, but I mean, the amount of unloyal men that I'd come across, that would come up to me and then I'd figure out so one way or another that they have a girlfriend or a wife or something of that sort. And it was scary. It was scary. And I remember thinking, I was like, so is this what my boyfriend was doing when he was out of town? Or like all the men that come on bachelor's trips and stuff like that. It was really real, like and surreal meeting like 4 or 5 men in a row. I felt like that were all, I somehow figured out that they were in a committed relationship. So that was scary.
That's
and
terrifying.
So I think and then it was just like, I talked with you about this. The company I currently work at, everyone's in a serious relationship except for me. And I feel like that had made me feel pressure to get into one, which was weird because I don't know. It was just weird. And I think that's when I started to put more of a focus and a shift towards like, what do I want? Because all these people are in these relationships and not that they're ever like rude or anything, but it just always felt like, okay. And like, I remember I didn't want to go to the Christmas party because I was the only one without a +1, like stuff like that, which is just like stupid, but it's like when you're at a couples event and you're the only single one there, for some reason it's embarrassing and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so annoying how there's that like pressure.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah. And then I get to thinking like all these people, like they live with their boyfriend or girlfriend or they're about to make these steps in their relationship and I don't have anyone. And then I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I'm like, okay, I'm literally 23. Like I have so much time.
Yeah.
I have so much time. And when I moved here and I came out of a relationship, I wanted to live by myself because I knew I had a lot of growing to do in my independence. And so when I came into where I'm working and I'm around all these people and couples, I need to sometimes take a step back and tell myself, this is what I wanted for myself, to be alone, to be comfortable being alone. Because I think in a relationship, not all of them, but like the one I was in, I got so caught up in having someone else there that sitting there with my own thoughts was like scary to me, or like doing things by myself was scary to me. And I knew that's not the person I was before the relationship or the person that I need to be in the future. So I think I went through a little rough patch being like, oh, I need a boyfriend, whatever. But then I realized, no, I don't, because this is the time I have to grow. And if I do get into a relationship, I want to be strong in myself. Yeah. And I knew I needed time after my last relationship to achieve that.
I think that is so mature. I can't remember the last time I talked to somebody and they said something like that. I really can't.
And I think that's what's wrong with this generation, because being alone is uncomfortable, and going from a relationship where you thought you were in love and you thought that it was going to last a long time, and having that go away is so uncomfortable. Or like, I remember when I moved here, like every Sunday I was so sad because I mean, Friday, Saturday, you go out and you do whatever and this and that, and Sunday you just kind of sit and decompress. But I live by myself, so I do that all by, like, I spend my Sundays by myself. And I remember I'd get so sad every Sunday, and then I realized, well, maybe I need to get out of bed and go do something by myself. And then when I started doing that, I can't remember the last Sunday that I was just really down. But for the first few months I lived here, every Sunday I would get so sad. But it's just like, you can enjoy things. Or I think I'm a lot more intentional with my friends now. And like, I've really been able to pour into friendships since I moved here, because I don't have a boyfriend or someone to pour all of that energy into. I pour it into my friends and myself instead.
Wow. I think to your point, I think there's so many advantages, just like there is to being married. I think there's so many advantages to being single.
Yeah, for sure.
There's so many.
Like when people are single, they kind of just like wait around and wait for someone. But like when you're single, like you said, like there's so many advantages, and like you can take advantage of being single.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so nice to just be able to do whatever I want to do and not have to feel guilty or consult anyone, or like if I want to go to bed at 7 p.m. I can. And I don't need to like tell anyone, okay, like I'm not going to be on my phone for the next. That's just, I think the relationship I was in was just not good, and I think that experience made me mature maybe a lot, because I've only had one boyfriend. And I just knew when I moved here, like if I dated a boy right now, poor man, because I could not give to him what he would deserve. And I would bring a lot of hatred and from my last relationship, thinking that all people are like that. So I think that's why I wanted to be single for so long, because I knew, because I don't know, I wrestle with this thought a lot of the like, I really, really like her. We talked about this. I really like her, but not for a relationship. I wrestle with this a lot because if you really, really like someone, you're going to want to be with them. But if I would have met someone a month or two after I broke up with my ex-boyfriend, I wouldn't have dated them. And I could have liked them a whole lot, but I knew it wouldn't have worked out. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. What do you guys think of that? Like, do you think that if you're like in a healing period and some people say, well, luckily I didn't meet anyone in this time because it would have been kind of awkward. But like, do you think that that can be the case?
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Or is it always just an excuse like, oh yeah, I like her, but I don't want to date. I don't want a relationship right now.
I think there's a difference between saying I like her, but I don't want to date her. And I like her and I'm not ready. Date her right
I'm
now.
Not ready.
I'm not ready right now. Because to me, that's two different things. If you're going to say I like her, but I don't want to date her, it's saying that you're objectifying her.
Yeah.
And you're not willing to put the time into a serious relationship. Or on the other hand, and you're saying I like her, but I shouldn't date her right now, as in I'm trying to heal something about myself. I think that's very mature.
Yeah. That's true. It's all about delivery, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like, every time I have come out of a relationship, every relationship I've been in, I'm the kind of person that's like, I am, how do you put it, like, very, like, intentional with it, and very, like, when I commit to someone, I'm all in, pretty much. And so when I come out of it, it's, especially if it was, like, a bad experience, it's just like I can breathe again. Like, it's like a weight off my shoulders. And so, and it, a lot of times in those situations, it's really difficult for me to come to that place. Like, it's hard for me to break up basically because I'm so like invested, especially because I've been in relationships. The first girl I dated, I was with her for like 2 years in high school. So it was hard for me to break up because it's just like I've invested so much time and energy and like emotion into this. And so it took me like probably 2 months to like, we took like a little break and then, but I think I was ready to break up before that, but like I just wasn't sure about the decision. But so when I finally made the decision, it was like, oh my gosh, like I don't even have to think about this anymore. Like I'm just like, it felt very like freeing, honestly. Yeah. So I don't think I would go like straight into a relationship after that. Like I don't know.
In my opinion, if you go straight from a relationship almost any relationship, and you go straight into another one without taking some time, you are dragging the complications of your previous relationship into this one. So number one, it's not fair for the person you're dating. Number two, it's not fair for you because you're never going to get a solid chance at being your best self, the healthiest version of yourself for that person if you don't take the time you need to genuinely heal. And there's a danger of it becoming out of fear, as in like you may wait too long that you're so afraid to get into another relationship. So there's a danger there. Yeah. But the person who goes from relationship to relationship is too afraid, in my opinion, to be alone with themselves enough to heal that they keep latching on literally like a leech to people as they go in order to distract themselves from what they know are things that they're going to that they really need to deal with, but they're just going to keep running and hiding from it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But to your point, I think everyone's timeline could be different.
I think people heal differently and at different speeds.
Well, and I think boys and girls heal a lot differently. We talked about this. Boys take a lot longer to feel and process emotions or understand that they're even having emotions. Yeah. And that's what I saw with my ex-boyfriend. We've been broken up. I think actually I saw myself today. I think this is I think we broke up a year ago, like today, honestly.
No way. Yeah. Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you. But it was up until, I was so sad about it. Even when I moved here, it was up until like maybe 2 months ago where he's like, had a complete shift. He had started kind of like dating another girl and posting her and this and that. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm done with you, right?
Yeah.
And then he stopped talking to her because, oh, I'm still in love with my ex-girlfriend. That's what he tells her.
Really?
And yes. And I'm like, and now he's been trying to mend all of these things that I've spent a year growing through.
Yeah.
And so like now when he says all these things, I'm like, okay, I know to not believe him.
Yeah.
But it's just because it took him a year to realize what was gone.
Wow.
A whole year.
Wow.
And I always remember telling my mom, because obviously I knew him really well, I was like, there's going to be a day when he is going to realize what he, like, what I gave into the relationship versus what I was getting. And
Yeah.
I can just pray that by that time, I'm over it and I'm strong enough to say no. And thank God, literally, thank you God, that by that time that came, it was like 3 weeks had gone by to where I was like, because I had posting with this other girl and whatever, I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so the timing was crazy, but that's just like a testament to like, everyone heals so differently. And now he's going through his healing phase right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And mine is just
like from your guys' relationship.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it just shows that like I allowed myself to sit alone and think about and cry and just think about how horrible I felt in this relationship. And he distracted himself and would go hang out with his friends and go here and never spend time alone.
Yeah.
But I spent the time alone, and I'm a girl. And when I was with my friends, you know what I'd be talking about? How horrible I felt in my relationship and how I know I deserve better and this and that. And I had people telling me I did. But that boys, not all boys, but most boys aren't going to go to their friend and be like, well, me and Carly had this fight today and this is how I feel. Like, that's not, but me, I would do that.
Yeah, I was very blessed, like, growing up in high school, because I did have very close friends like that, where I could go to them, and, you know, this was, like, senior year of high school, and everyone, you know, the first year that I dated this girl was, like, fantastic, and then, like, the second year, it was just, yeah, went downhill, and everyone was telling me, like, you know, like, starting to kind of hint towards me that I should probably break up with her. And then I would like hear things about her that just like didn't sound right. Like, does she really act like that? Like when I'm not around her, you know? And so it was tough to like just come to terms with everything, especially after being together for, you know, that long. And we talked about marriage, we talked about all those things. Like, it was very serious. And so to come out of that, it was just like, it was tough. But I was very different to where it was the weirdest feeling. Like after I broke up with her, I think I cried for like 10 minutes in my truck, like right after I broke up with her. And then like a week later, I was just like, I was fine.
Interesting.
I don't know. My friends told me they think it was just because the stress of it all, of like making that decision.
You had time to come to terms with it before it actually happened. Exactly. Yeah.
And so when I finally made a decision, like I said, it was just like a relief.
Yeah.
And so I remember like not even 2 weeks later, it was the weirdest thing, because this might sound terrible. But like I felt like I never even had dated her.
Wow.
Like it was very strange, especially because that was like my first relationship.
Yeah.
And so it felt like I had lived another life. That's how I felt. So, and then I was like, dude, I love being single right now. Like it was very weird.
But I feel like people, like when you hear someone say, I love being single, that also has like a negative connotation of, I'm dating all these girls, or I'm dating all these guys. But no, it's just like some people just love being alone and having the freedom. If a guy comes up to me and wants to take me to dinner, to go and like feel, this is like, I recently told my ex-boyfriend this because he was trying to get back together. I'm like, no. And I told him, I meet people at the bar even, or just out, that show me more respect, that have known me for 5 minutes than you showed me in all these years we knew each other. Like, I feel more loved by some strangers than I would feel by you in our relationship.
Yeah.
And he's having a very hard time grasping how I could move on. But like, I truly think it's just because we had very different experiences within this relationship. Like, I mean, I think, and he's finally realizing I'm very like strong-willed, but in this relationship there was something wrong that I just couldn't, like, everyone would tell me, I knew that I needed to get out of it, but I would just like, for some reason was just, and it was like, looking back, it's embarrassing, the things people knew and the things I went through and that I allowed. And so I think that's just a big part of it too, just like getting back to like loving yourself enough to be like, no, like that's not good for me.
How long did you guys date for?
We dated for about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
The power dynamic in a relationship can be very deceptive. You can it's only until you're far removed from that you can actually gain perspective. Oh my gosh, I was letting them walk all over me. Why did I do that? I would never do that right now. But in that, you get tunnel vision in the moment, because you convince yourself, oh, it's just because he's just doing it. He just really loves me, or he's going through something. I need to be with him. Like, I'm a bad girlfriend if I'm not with him right now. I'm not with him through this, and I wouldn't have given him a chance. And you can just come up with all these reasons why you should stay. But then it's only when you've severed that and you have time to look back and be like, oh my gosh, that was unhealthy.
Yeah. I felt like I'd always had the mindset of, okay, like if I'm married to this person and we have problems, like I would have to figure out how to work through it. And so with like a dating relationship, when we had problems, that was just like my mindset was like, okay, like, can we work through this? Because if we can, then I feel like that's a good sign.
Yeah, but that's good. That's healthy for you to think that way. But once it gets to the point,
we would never work through it.
Exactly.
So like, it was
once it gets to the point where you're clearly not going to get over it, or get
it just
through
keeps
it,
coming
you
back,
need to. That's the same way it was with me. But to your point of like, if we're married, that this is how, like, I think you need to also look at relationships, which within my relationship with my ex-boyfriend, I knew this, and I would tell him, like, I would say, like, the way you treat me is the way, and your girlfriend is or wife to, like, in the future is supposed to be like the most important person to you. And what are you going to do when you have kids? And are you going to scream at them the way that you're screaming at me? Are you going to cuss at them the way you're cussing at me? And I told him, like, that was like a big reason that I was like, I would think about, I can't marry him, because if I bring children into this world and suscept them to that, and like, if he hasn't grown, like that would break my heart, and that it goes beyond just yourself at that point.
Yeah.
And now you're so far deep in the relationship, it's that much harder to get out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, now I know moving forward that if something like happens in the end or in the beginning, that you can tell, like, I remember for the certain situation that him and I had, which is why we ultimately broke up pretty much.
Yeah.
I remember thinking one day, we'd been together maybe like 2 months. I remember having a conversation with him and thinking, this is going to either be the reason we break up, or he's going to have to like fix this soon.
Yeah.
And that was like 2 months in. And I already predicted it. And it's kind of like, I just didn't know. I'd never been in a relationship. I've never been that close to anyone. I didn't understand that, like, maybe this means you shouldn't keep going.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah. How could you?
But I think that it helped. It's like that, having that relationship is going to be very helpful to me in my future relationships, because I know what I can tolerate. If I see something, I think I'll be able to identify it as what it is, instead of just like, oh, like, he just had a bad day. Or
I think the key to those early relationships, and it's very tough, is you have to have supporting people around you that you trust enough to give you that feedback, and you have to be willing to go far enough into these situations that you get the gold nugget, but not so far as you're devastated for the rest of your life. You're actually so torn up that you can't ever heal.
Yeah.
Like, you have to find that line between, am I really giving this time to breathe, or am I so far in that I'm actually hurting myself?
Yeah.
And I think I had a lunch with someone that I had got a connection through BNI for, and he was a young, successful person, older than us by 10 years, but still by the world standards, young and successful. He said something to me about hiring employees that I think fits very well with this conversation. He said, if you wouldn't work with them for a lifetime, don't work with them for a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang. He said, because your business might be so, it might be struggling to the point where you absolutely need to hire this 5 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
You absolutely need to hire someone, and you'll take this 5 over waiting till you maybe get like an 8 or 9. And
that is.
And so you'll hire them because you're like, well, I can make this work, right?
Yeah.
But he said, if you will not work with them, if you can't see yourself working with them for a lifetime, don't work with them for a day.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing goes for a relationship. People are going through life like, oh, I'm lonely right now. Oh, I'm depressed right now. I'm anxious right now. Oh, this person fixes it for a little bit. When I'm with them, I don't feel as bad.
Yeah, for sure.
And so they'll take a 5.
Yeah.
For a little bit. But then when that 5 starts to bear its teeth,
yeah.
Like, but if I go back, then I'll be lonely again.
Yeah.
And you're not willing to do the healing or to grow and mature yourself in a way that you attract an 8 or a 9 or a 10. You don't give yourself, people don't often give themselves the time to do that. And so I would argue that what you're doing right now is you're giving yourself space. I think I might have even told you this when we were talking about this. You're giving yourself space to grow, and you're literally becoming a 8, a 9, a 10 in your person as a whole, that you're going to attract an 8, a 9, or a 10 of a spouse, of that person that you're that lifelong partner you're trying to attract into your life. But if you never would have given yourself space to that 8 or 9 or 10 would have been where you're at now and would have seen that red flag in you.
Yeah.
And so people don't understand that they have to give themselves time in order to get there, in order to attract the person they want. They just take what's in front of them.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing in our generation is people date to date, not because they like it's not like when I get into a relationship, I want it to be not because I wanted a relationship, but because I wanted to spend a lot of time with this person because I really like this person. You know, not because I'm like, you know what, I need a boyfriend in the next few months. Like, let me find one. And that's the way a lot of people in our generation, that's the way they work. And that's, I think, what's wrong and why, I don't know. And I think, like I said in the beginning, the lack of transparency between people and the fear, I don't know. Like, there's just, the dating right now sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it went wrong.
Yeah. My wife, Taylor, when we first started talking, I think it was probably 2 weeks in. And so, like, really seriously talking and hanging out, where it was 2 weeks to a month in, where we were like, literally, she said to me, we had both cooked for each other on, like, hanging out for the first time. You could argue it was a first date. And then she cooked for me, and she was like, I need to know where this is going because I don't cook for my guy friends. And what she did was, it wasn't like
Good for her.
It wasn't like you better da. It wasn't in an arrogant way or in a judgmental way. She was like, I need clarity right now because I don't stick around for people that lead me on. And it caused me to make a decision of, okay, if I see this woman as someone, as a potential lifelong partner, a spouse, a potential wife, I need to be willing to put in some more effort and to give her some more security.
This is crazy because me and my coworker were having this exact conversation at lunch today about, like, why is it so wrong or seen as so embarrassing to ask a guy or a girl, like, you know how everyone's like, did she hit you with the what are we? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, like, if I'm hanging out with a guy and I'm wondering, like, does he see me as a friend or does he see me as someone he would potentially date? And I'm just sitting here hanging out with you, wondering that for months. And then I'm always just like, oh, I'll be able to know eventually. But I I think I talked to you about this too. I'm very good at compartmentalizing my relationships. So if I like someone and I figure out that they don't like me, okay, well, we can still be friends, but I need to know that sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But that's just so frowned upon. And it's like, I feel like props to your wife, because as a girl, it's so scary.
Yeah.
And like the amount of times I've wanted to do that, but I chicken out every time because, and I was thinking about this earlier, like the fear of rejection is kind of like, it overcomes you. But if you're meant to be with someone, you're meant to be with someone. If you're getting rejected, that means you're one step closer to finding someone who's a good fit for you, or just sees the value in you that you see in them. Like if you like someone a lot and you love all these qualities about them, but they don't see that in you, that's okay. But you're going to find someone who does. Yeah. And I think...
okay, sorry.
I was going to say, I think that's a hard thing for people to realize, and like when you're within the situation.
That's the sales training in you, is that every no you get is one step closer to your first yes.
No, they do tell us that, which I don't know how true that is, but I think in dating, it's pretty valid, because if you're dating someone who doesn't really like you, you're holding yourself back because that you're not going to be looking elsewhere.
That's so true.
Or do you believe in like the one? Do you think like there's a person that like everyone is meant for? Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I
go back and forth.
Me too.
Yeah.
But I think soulmates come in a lot of forms. I think some of my friends are like my soulmates. I think my dog's my soulmate. Yeah. I think, and
I would 100% agree with that. Yeah.
Or like I think my cousin's my soulmate. Like I think about that. I'm like, we're born into the same family and we are best friends and we get along so well. Like that's crazy. Like that was meant to happen.
Yeah.
But do I think that there's one man somewhere in this world for me that if I don't find him, nothing, like I'm...
Right.
No. I think you probably have multiple soulmates and multiple people that you could get along with really well. And that you're probably, hopefully, everyone's going to find one.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there's just one man in this world that could love me the way that I should be loved.
Yeah.
Or that I would love him the way that he should be loved. I think, I don't know. It's
just always been so interesting to me. What do they call it? The like assigned marriage or
arranged marriages.
Arranged marriage, yeah. And like how those typically last longer and are happier than
because
people who just date or whatever. And so I do think that when you choose someone, whether it was meant to be or not, like when you are married, like, I mean, as a Christian, like biblically you should, like, they become the one. Like,
yeah. Okay, I would agree on
then
that.
you would you have to work for that, I think. You have like an obligation to.
Unless of course.
Yeah, of course, unless something...
like you're being abused or something like
that. Yeah.
We have to put that disclaimer.
Right, yeah, for sure. For sure.
I don't think I believe in the one, but I believe in meant to be. Like, it's like, if he doesn't like me back, it's because we weren't going to be good together.
Yeah.
That's that's at least maybe how I comfort myself. Yeah. If someone doesn't like me back. But I don't think, like, because they don't see the value that you bring in, and you need to know as a single individual the value you're bringing in. And if they can't see that, then you can give that to someone else.
Yeah.
The way I always looked at it is I am trying to better myself, because how can I expect my wife to be loving, to communicate well, to treat me with respect if I don't bring that first?
Yeah.
So I always came about it with that mentality, and I did in my head, maybe this was more comforting than anything, but I always just in my head was praying like, Lord, I believe that you have someone out there for me, and that as long as I keep and continue in your will, that I have a chance of meeting them. But I kind of maybe use that to keep myself in check of like, okay, if I stop doing what I'm supposed to do, then why would that person who I want to be with me?
Yeah.
And so I was kind of just used it as a way to try to make myself better.
I mean, I think it's in Proverbs where it says that like the Lord directs the footsteps of the righteous.
Yeah.
I think that has always been huge for me, because it's like, okay, God, if all I'm like concerned about is just my relationship with you, then you're going to direct my footsteps. And then like, maybe someone comes along, maybe not, but that's like, it's almost
Yeah.
like people go the opposite route where it's like they just, they're just trying to find the one. And that's all they're like looking for. And so I don't know. I just don't think that helps.
Yeah.
very
I want to
much.
make just a disclaimer, like when you say righteous, like we don't mean self-righteous. We don't mean like by our own accord are we the righteous
Right. Yeah.
person,
Right.
but because like we have faith in God and He's made us right.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I know you mean
right.
that,
Right.
but I'm just saying for anyone listening who doesn't maybe not understand that.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
saying that because we're self-righteous.
Yeah. As you are pursuing the Lord,
Yeah.
the Lord considers you righteous, pretty much.
Yeah.
Guide your steps.
Yeah, and He will guide your steps. Therefore.
Yeah, I think like what you're saying is just kind of like, they're saying like you can't be loved until you love yourself or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the same concept. Like if you haven't grown for yourself, like I'm not putting work into myself because I want a husband necessarily. I'm
Yes,
putting
right,
work into
right.
myself to improve myself to one day attract someone who will have the same mindset as I do.
Right.
But it's not because I like this boy and I need to be good enough for him, so
Right.
I'm going to do. No, I'm doing it for myself and for
It's a good
a
distinction.
lifetime of happiness for myself. That one thing I think will come with that is marriage, but it's not for the sake of finding a husband. It's for the sake of being happy with who I am.
Right.
That's a good
100%.
distinction. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then you are who you want to be, and the person that falls in love with you or whatever, they love you for who you are, for your full self.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be someone else for that person.
Yeah. And I think that's like a lot of our generation gets caught up in morphing into who they are dating or who they're around. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, I think as I'm getting older, I'm starting to, like, I don't know if it was coming out of my last relationship, but when I meet people, or meet boys, I'll be like, okay, I like these things about him. And I don't know about these things. And I could see that, like, it's weird. Like, I'd be like, I think we get along really well in this way, but like, I think I'm more intentional when I'm meeting people. Like, if I go on a date or something, than I was ever before. I was like, he's cute and he makes me laugh. I really like him. But now it's like, I feel this way when I'm with him. And I know we were talking about this, like, I learn when I'm with you, or like, I feel like validated when I'm with you. And I don't think I felt that with him. And I think that's like a good growth that I've had. But I don't know. I think where my frustration was coming from our last conversation is just like, I can feel all these ways about someone and not know how they feel.
Yeah.
And just sit around wondering. And I think that's what a lot of us do these days.
Yeah, that is very frustrating.
I remember I was telling my coworker, I was like, you know what? I think like everyone says how fun it is to have a crush. I don't think there's anything worse. Because if it's a crush, it's like, oh, because I like him, but I don't know if he likes me. That's what I distinguish as a crush. Or it's just very new.
Yeah.
But sitting around and being like, oh, what does he see me as a friend, or does he, or like, I'm really bad about, okay, so he said this and this and this, so that must mean
Yeah.
he wouldn't have said that if he doesn't like me, right? And I'm asking my friends, right? And they're
Everybody
like,
does that.
no, and I'm
Yeah.
really bad about it. And it's just like, why can't we be so straightforward? And the book I'm reading I was telling him, I'm reading this book called The Rules, which is basically, it was written a long time ago by women to basically how you how you ensure that when you're dating someone, like, you're gonna win them over for the long run for marriage, and you're gonna keep winning them over within marriage. And it's a very
interesting book.
You said it was written a long time ago?
well, I don't know how long ago, but it's just like old fashioned.
Oh, okay.
I think the people who wrote it are still alive, so it couldn't have been that long.
Okay.
But like before there were cell phones.
There was something she said that I was like, wow, that is crazy. I would never do that. And then there's other things she said, I was like, that makes sense.
And that's when we talked about, like, you got to be able to distinguish between the two. Like, I can't, like, I'm reading this book, and if I believed everything that it said, which it literally talks about people like me who read the book and don't listen to it by the rules, but I just think times have changed, and I think I have too strong of a personality to follow those rules to a T because I don't know, I don't want, and I remember discussing it with you, some of it seems also even just like a little manipulative because like hanging up the phone after 10 minutes, no matter where the conversation is at, just to have the power. Like, okay, I'm not going to do that, you know, stuff like that. But I've been reading that book and it's telling me, like, you never show interest. You miss his calls and you don't call him back because if he really likes you, he's going to call you again. But what if I want to answer the phone? You know?
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that's also where a lot of it's been coming from because, like, this is telling me, like, don't be transparent. Don't ever let them know that you like them.
That's crazy.
But it's just like...
That's so crazy to me.
That's what the book is saying?
Basically.
Interesting.
I'm only, like, on rule 27, but...
And this is, but you said it came out, it was published, like, before cell phones?
Mm-hmm. So that's why it's also outdated. Like, it's whenever, like, your mom would get and be like, Johnny called for you today while you were at school.
Yeah, okay.
You know? So,
That's
like, I think that's kind of part of it. But I don't know. I've been, like, really debating a lot of things since I started reading that book.
Yeah. Some of the things you were saying, I was like, if a girl that to me, see ya.
But it's because, like, also, I don't want a boy, like, if I like a boy, I don't want him to sit and wonder if I like him like I'm probably doing about him because, like, it's just, like, it's not a good feeling. And if I meet someone, I see all these good things and I want to be able to, like, you know how good it feels when someone compliments you in a meaningful way? Yeah. Like, I want to be able to give that to someone and I don't want to have to be like, oh, he's calling. Well, I already talked to him today. I can't answer.
Yeah.
Or, like, I think we were talking about how, like, he texted me back and it took 3 hours, so now I need to take 5.
Yeah, that's wild.
But
that's wild.
It's so specific.
But that's how a lot of people
And
work.
the book is called Rules?
I'm reading all the rules because there's a rules and the rules too, and I bought the book with both of them put into one.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But it was like it's like all the rules, a timeless something to finding
so
Mr.
funny.
Right.
That's crazy.
Okay, so this is really interesting to me. So in high school and even in middle school, we had a friend growing up who was, like, you know, always in a relationship. He was that guy that like just could not be in a relationship ever. Like, I don't really remember a time that he wasn't, like, either, like, if he wasn't talking to someone, he was trying to.
Yeah.
And after he just got out of a relationship for like a year, he was in this relationship for a year, and you know, and after, you know, literally like all these girls he's dated, right? Just relationship to relationship, and then we were just about to graduate. No, this is right after we graduated high school, and he comes to us, like our, like, you know, all of our guy friends. And he's like, yeah, dude, so do you guys know? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, we've been talking for, like, you know, like a month or two, and now things are getting serious, and then we're going to get married. We were like, wait, dude, what? You guys are going to get, wait, like, you're going to get married. And not only that, they wanted to get married, like, it was, like, I think it was March when he told us, and they wanted to get married in June. How wild is that, dude?
Did he?
Yeah, they got, well, okay.
Whoa,
so we were all just like, dude, I don't know, we might have to, we can bleep out these names. But we were like, dude, this is not a good idea. You just got out of, like, this relationship. You've been in so many relationships, and you're just like, when you know, you know. And I was like, we got him to wait until October. So they got married in October.
Are they still married?
They're still married.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Maybe it is like that then.
Dude, that's like what is fascinating to me is that sometimes it just, like,
But do you believe in the when you know, you know?
I don't know. Because it seems like in instances like that, sometimes it happens.
I can weigh in on this one.
Oh yeah, he's literally married. Let's hear it.
For me,
I think that's a very, very rare occurrence.
I agree.
But yeah.
I will say this, that I also felt that same pressure to be like, oh, I have to date her for at least a year, and then we have to be engaged for at least, because then we'll be judged by people, and then they might be right, and what if they're right and we don't? We're not right.
Yeah.
So I did feel that for sure. And I also, hindsight's always 20/20. I will say that as well. And I knew 80% by 3 months that I could marry this person, and I would be 80% sure that we would be okay.
In 3 months.
In 3 months. And I will say as well, we were very purposeful in the conversations we had. So we weren't just going around dating like, oh my gosh, that flower's really pretty. Do you like flowers? I like flowers. What flower do you like?
Like you were having like deep, meaningful conversations
We were like,
from the
okay,
beginning.
do you think that that just war theory is true? Like, wait, I'm kind of joking a little bit, but we really did have conversations that were like very serious, because we wanted to know, is this someone that I can spend time with long term?
Yeah.
And I really think that there's a point where you can get to a person where you know about 80% if that person is good or not, and you should be able to cut it off by that point.
Yeah, but like the timeline, I feel like.
And so
when are you supposed to know that?
So from that point on, it was. I just asked myself, could I genuinely see myself waking up every day and going through difficult situations with this person? So you got to kind of ask yourself, okay, how did this person respond to a stressful situation that we've been in? When we were trying to get somewhere and we were late, like it's just practical stuff. When we were trying to get to an event and we were late, did they lose their temper very quickly with me? If they did, guess what? I can be pretty sure that if any situation becomes more stressful than getting somewhere late, they're going to lose their temper with me.
Yeah.
And I can't have a logical conversation with them beyond that point of stress. And so that's a flag for me that I should really consider. So for me, it was very practical in that way. And yeah, there was a 20% chance that they could do something, or something could come up that I don't know about. But if I know enough about that person, then I know enough that we can work through that situation. And so I knew enough about their habits and about how they handled situations, because I had been in a few relationships beforehand, and I had that to look back on. If this was my first relationship, I would have leaned even more heavy on my parents, my mentors, things like that. But I can see if people don't have strong mentors, if they don't have strong voices in their life, they could easily make a very, 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 very poor decision on someone, or they could just not be confident in the person that they're going to spend the rest of their life with. So I wouldn't say that. I would say that it is true that you can, when you know. When you know, you know. When you know, you know. I think it's just cliche sometimes.
Yeah, but like.
Yeah, for sure.
I also feel like, which I don't know, but I feel like sometimes I meet people, there's like a certain feeling I get when I'm around a certain type of person. And there's been people that feeling's not there. You know what I mean?
That's your intuition.
But that could also be misconstrued infatuation.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about a lot. Like when I meet someone that I really like, how do I decipher, am I infatuated with him? Am I creating something in my head that might not be who he even is?
Yeah.
Or like, I guess like as you spend more time with someone, you figure out if it was infatuation or not. Yeah. But how do you know at those beginning stages when you before you're dating and you're deciding, do I want to date this person?
Yeah. Okay, I have a question. Like, what do you guys think about like the different levels of dating?
Like talking, dating.
Yeah, like the talking, the dating.
Oh my gosh.
And then like
I mean,
we're not dating, we're talking. I hate that.
Yeah.
Do you hate that?
I hate that. But it's also like from the confusion of, are we talking?
Yeah.
Or are we just hanging out as friends.
How many girls are you talking to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we? I like the. Are we exclusive?
Mm-hmm.
I like that because this might upset some people in the room, but I don't think that until you have that conversation that you owe it to someone to be 100% exclusive. Like if you're dating someone very, very casually, and this one of my friends just recently got into a relationship, and I was playing devil's advocate because she hadn't been single for very long, and she started seeing this new guy. Someone else asked her on a date, and I told her to go because I was like, I think that I can also help you see if you really like. But I see your face. I also think though, if I were talking to someone and I got on several dates with them and someone else asked me on a date, I would not just go, I would bring it up to the person that I'm already like going on dates with and be like, how does this make you feel? Or are you okay with that? And because I want the person that I'm going to date or marry to be like, I don't want you to go.
Right.
But when they hit you with well, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Then okay, I'm gonna go because I want you to be confident enough in where we're headed that where you can be like, I can't tell you not to go. Maybe you can say that I can't tell you not to go, but I'd really, really not like you to go.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that you're saying that. You're hoping someone would say that to you, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that's respectful.
Yeah.
And just literally honest.
Literally honest.
Yeah. And you could also see how they react. Like, are you going to yell at me and be like, why would you go out with someone, you know? I think that's, but there's also like, when do you know when you're at the time when you've been hanging out with someone where it's appropriate to even ask that? That's what we were talking about today. So we've hung out sometimes, but I still don't know for sure if he likes me or if he's even seeing this going towards a relationship or if he's just hanging out with me to hang out with me. So, you know, it's like, okay, well, what if I ask him and he's like, what? We're just friends, you know?
Yeah. I do think at some point, like, either side needs to make it clear, like, where you're at. And so, for me, because I think there is a difference between talking and dating. Like,
there is a difference.
Like, for me, I think I can be, like, if I just, like a girl, like, and I'm, like, interested, and, like, yeah, like, I want to go talk to her, and, like, maybe go get coffee, and just talk. But I think, like, beyond that, if I'm going to, like, if I then just, and I think, like, I would make it clear that, like, yeah, let's just get coffee, it's not a big deal, whatever, right? Just talking. And then if like I decide, okay, I like this, where this is going, and I want to pursue this girl, pretty much, then I feel like that is when I would make the decision, like, okay.
I'd like to take you out on a date.
Yeah, I would take you out on a date and then probably ask you to be my girlfriend. Right? And then like now that relationship is more like I'm committed to this relationship pretty much. And so, but then that's not like committed to marriage, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think it's more just like, okay, I'm not going to see any other girl right now. I'm going to invest my time in you.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to make those stages clear.
Yeah.
But no one does. And that's the problem.
No one does, yeah.
I totally agree. And so I would say something like, listen, I'm not trying to manipulate you in any way or anything like that. I simply, out of my own self-respect, want to ask you, what are your intentions? Because you're not going to do this like the very first time you hang out. Probably not the second, maybe not even the third. But like, if you're 3 months into hanging out with someone a lot, and you haven't had a conversation where you're like, I don't mean this to sound weird, or I don't want to press you in any way, but I respect myself and I respect you, and I would like to know where this is headed because I enjoy hanging out with you.
Yeah.
And I don't want you. If I'm gonna hang out with you exclusively, I would like you not to do that with any other people. I would like to go on dates with you. There's a conversation like that should happen, and if frankly that person thinks you're weird for saying that, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Then you don't want them anyways. Yeah, but I just think that nowadays hanging out with a boy or a girl has become so casual, and it's not like, let me pick you up and open your door for you and come to the door, and like it used to be like, okay, that's clearly a date. But my friend that I was just talking about, who I was having this conversation with, she had a guy who actually did that, and she's still wondering, like, does he like me? but I get it, because it's just like, and and then
Well, it's tough because there are, like, I've always been taught to do that for any girl no matter what.
that's exactly what
Or
I'm
I
gonna
would do
say.
it for anybody. Like, it doesn't matter.
Or like if you go to get coffee and he buys it for you, okay, is this a date or is he just being a gentleman?
Yeah.
Because I've had guy friends buy me my coffee.
My wife would definitely chime in right now, and she would be like, I have something to say, because when I first, the way I would basically get optics on a girl is if I could not hear them talk in a group setting, I would say something like, hey, I'm going to go do, I was in college, so I would say, I would go do homework. I'm going to do homework. Would you like to come with me? And if they would say, no, that's fine, because I'm going anyway. So
Yeah.
I would feel less rejected.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Okay, so that's what I would say. And then when my wife said, yeah, sure, I'll go with you, because there's not any pressure, right? It's like, would you want to date with me? And so, like, she didn't wear any makeup. She didn't, like, do anything with her hair. But she thought it was a date. But I brought my book bag. I literally brought my bag with my books in it.
Yeah.
And I didn't pay for her coffee.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. Because we were just going to go do homework. Like, I wasn't trying to take her on a
But
date.
did you guys go up to order the coffee together and you paid for yours and she paid for hers?
I didn't get it. I don't think I got anything. But
Okay.
she got some coffee. And so she was like, kind of...
Everything's
she
a
told
lie.
Me later, she told me later, she was like, he didn't buy my coffee. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally read this wrong. But we sat down. We sat down, but we ended up just talking for like 2 hours, right? And so after that, I was like, okay, I really like this girl, and I see a lot of green flags. Or I see a lot of good things about her. So I'm going to. I said, well, we were talking later, and I was like, well, I bet I can cook better than you. And so she was like, oh yeah?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, we had a kitchen in our dorm. I said, let me reserve the kitchen and I'll cook you a meal and you can do it for yourself. And I said, but you have to bring she didn't have an Instagram at the time she had deleted it. And I was like, you have to bring 3 things that are important to you and you have to tell me why. And so by doing that, I showed her that by spending time with you, I'm now going to invest money to go buy these groceries. I'm going to invest time by cooking a meal for you. I'm going to show you that I have a trait that is of value, but I also want you to bring something to the table. I want you to bring those things that are important to you, and I want you to bring your vulnerability and tell me why.
Yeah.
You don't have to be super vulnerable. Just tell me why. Because I was gaining...
And then you made it clear. Yeah, you made it clear there. But
you did, like, you were definitely interested in her.
Yeah, I was interested in her, but I wasn't like... I wasn't like... After that date, I wasn't like, I want you to be my girlfriend. After that, she was like, I want to do something for you now.
But I just think that there's such a, like, also just, like, a stigma behind, like, who asks to hang out first? Or...
Sure. Yeah. It's a game.
I've texted it, like,
it is a game.
I've texted him first 3 times in a row. I can't text him first ever again.
There's an aspect of that you can't ignore.
Yeah, it's a game, and everybody is, like, reading into everything, trying to figure out, like, what the other person is thinking.
But why is that the way it is? Like, why can't you just, after hanging out a few times, being like, so what's going on here? But
I've had it happen to me on the first, like, hangout.
But I think if you miss the window of the first hangout, then you're kind of like, when do you do it now, right? Because if you're doing it the first time, just being like, well, I just want to make sure we're on the same page and I'm not reading this wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? But then say you've hung out 4, 5, 6 times and it's still, then now it's just like, well, are we, like, the same thing, are we just friends? And like, or like, am I going to, because like some people I think just like to take things really slow. And so am I going to overwhelm him and scare him? Because, and like, I don't think if that does overwhelm him or her, I don't think that's necessarily like a red flag per se, as just like, they just take more time to understand what's going on.
I agree.
But it's all like, I guess, timing. And then you're like, oh, I don't want to. And then it's like, part of you is just like, well, some of you doesn't want to know, because if the answer is no, you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Or like, is this going to ruin our friendship? Like, if I ask him, are we just friends, or like, and he says, oh yeah, we're just friends. Well, is he going to feel bad and not want to hang out with me again? Like, it's just so much of that. And I just wish people would just be straightforward from the beginning. Like,
there is definitely a whole bunch of nuance to it. That's why I don't like that book, because there's really not rules to it.
Yeah.
There's general things that society accepts as things.
But they're time-tested secrets. It says it on the cover.
Clearly, it's been on the best.
Dude.
I'm sure it's been on the bestsellers list. It must be.
I
gospel.
think no matter what, the first hangout will always be a gamble, like on both sides, because I could pay for the coffee or I couldn't, and it's like it's gonna be read into no matter what. Like you're always trying to play the game. On the first hangout, especially, even the first question. If I ask a girl to hang out, it's like, okay, is he asking me because he likes me? Is he asking me because he just wants to hang out? It's like immediately there's that gamble of trying to figure out like, okay, what is this person? What's their intentions?
Yeah.
But I think like there's no getting around that. But by the second or third or fourth time you guys have hung out, I think
There needs to be a conversation.
I feel like intentions should be made clear. Especially if I do like this person, I feel like I should tell them.
Yeah, but I think everyone's just so roundabout these days. I'm not gonna go up to a guy and be like, "I like you," but I'll be like, "You look really nice today," or like, "I enjoy being with you because of this." That I'm not, but I don't think I would like. It's too scary to be like, I really like you.
But I mean, off the rip, yeah.
But
it's a gamble.
But I mean, if I'm telling a guy, "Oh, you look really nice today," well, he could be like, I mean, like I've told my friends I look nice before. They look nice before, I really like our conversations we have. Well, I like the conversations I have with my friends. So like they could be confused by what I'm saying too. But it's just like, but I feel like if I'm just like, I really like you, then that's a little weird.
There's definitely a nuance to it. But I think you can communicate without saying the words. Like you can say something like I really had a nice time tonight. I really appreciate you coming over and doing these things. And then later on, you'd be like, "Hey, I'm going to this place. You want to come with me?" Or, there's those things like that.
But I think that you can like people get stuck in like a little tango of doing the same oh yeah, like today was really fun. Yeah, I had a great time too. Like thanks for coming. And then like you leave and be like, okay, like when does someone make the decision to have like a real grown-up conversation about it without being overwhelming?
Yeah, that is the
I feel like when you know for sure that like, okay, I do like this person, and like you are intentionally trying to hang out with them because you like them, then I think it should be like your obligation to tell them.
Okay.
As soon as possible.
But is that, do you think that as like you because you're a boy, or like do you think the same would go for me as a girl? Because this is where we go. The book says the girl, like I could love this man and want to marry this man right now.
But you would never let him know.
You should not ever let him know that you see him any different. It literally said treat the man of your dreams like the man that you do not like that keeps calling you.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
But it's because
See, this is a difficult question to answer because there's an element of generalization because most men want to feel like there is a little bit of like a dance. There's a little bit of a back and forth. There's a little bit of a chase.
That's what my dad tells me.
And there are some guys that don't.
Yeah.
You can't stereotype every guy to be one way, and some guys are more in tune with their emotions, and some guys are maybe scared more of rejection, or some guys are just like shyer and like I'm very outward, and so I feel like sometimes maybe people are like, well, I'm so outward that if she's not doing something bold, then she's not going to do it because of the way her personality is, or it's like, oh, he's just like a little shyer and quieter, and like. Now I have to take that step. But then it's like, in the book it says that if they're not going to come, like, approach you, then they don't want you.
I think this book is really confusing you.
Okay, but I was already confused before.
It's so funny because I've literally heard, like, the opposite for guys, too.
Well, and then it said in the book, after we had our conversation, I kept reading, and it was like, don't go asking your guy friends what they think of this. They're not going to tell you what they actually think. And I'm like, because I started asking some of my other guy friends too after our conversation, but all of them were like, yeah, I mean, I'd love for a girl to like be straightforward with me and tell me, or like make like a bold, like, but it's just like, oh, you asked him out, you know, like, hey, I'm going to grab a coffee. Would you like to join? Like, that's like, that makes me feel like I just asked a boy on a date.
Really?
Yeah. But then, and then it's like,
That feels so like, that feels like no pressure to me.
yeah, but then it's just like, yeah, but I hate the no pressure thing and that everything's so chill because then you don't know what it is.
That's what I'm saying. The first one is always gonna be
So
a gamble. You're not always, I don't know.
But
like you just have to just go.
Did you like it when the girl asked you on the first date what your intentions were? Did you like that, or were you like, why did she just ask you that?
She didn't. Okay, it was I had a BOGO to Chipotle. Okay.
Hey, I love Chipotle.
I freaking love Chipotle, dude. It's like my life source.
Where did you get a buy one get one free from Chipotle?
Because you had all the points.
It was the most random thing. My older brother Austin had flown to Sagu to take me and my other brother Jared, who also flew to Sagu, and we went to a Supercross race. And he was like, "Hey, dude, have a BOGO." And just gave it to me. The most random thing like ever. And so it just sat in my room like forever.
So you told the girl you had a BOGO? And
all I said, I was like, I mean, because we had started like, you know, we were like walking across campus and like we'd say hi or whatever. And then we were like literally texting on Instagram. And I think she texted me first. On Instagram.
She did. She slid into his
I'm
DMs.
pretty sure. And then I literally, one night I was like, hey, like, I'm going to go to Chipotle and I have a buy one, get one free. If you want to come with me, you can. And then like I can't remember exactly what she said, but she like off the rip, she was like.
Wait, before you all were at Chipotle when this conversation's happening?
No, like I'm in my room. I just sent the text.
Before you even went?
Yeah. And she was like, wait, so like, what is this? It's just like or whatever. And I was like.
She went for it.
What did you say?
I was like, I'm just going to Chipotle. If you want to
So you didn't like
me,
her?
you can.
Like that.
I was interested in her.
But you don't want to let her know that, right? Because why wouldn't you be like...
I felt like because we were messaging on Instagram the way that we were, it wasn't like weird or anything, but like we were going out of our way to talk to each other on Instagram. So like I felt like me asking her to go to Chipotle, I mean, it was just a chill.
But then you just said, I'm going to Chipotle, and you...
But we had never even had like an actual conversation in person.
So you didn't want to set too high expectations in case you didn't like her.
I just literally wanted to have a conversation with her. Yeah.
And also...
Like, we literally said hi to each other at the lunch line. And I think that I forget what she did, but she messaged me on Instagram, like, apologizing for something stupid. Like,
she just wanted a reason
She just wanted to talk to me, yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So did y'all go to Chipotle?
So, yeah, we went to Chipotle.
How'd it go?
And it was okay. She was like... the conversation started off, like, very casual. And then it just, like, led into... I mean, she just spilled like all of her like.
Says in the book to not do that.
I mean,
and I'll get behind that.
It was. I mean, I appreciated that she like trusted me to say a lot, like just kind of like I don't know, yeah, pretty much. And I felt bad because I almost felt obligated to do the same then, but I didn't want to yet.
It's not a first conversation.
Yeah.
But you know what? Instead of whenever like I understand like the trust. But it's like, oh, he like spoke to me about his parents or this or that. And I'd be like, I feel like even just something like that is like very like I appreciate that as someone that might have interest in me and trusting of me. Because like, I'm not going to be like talking about my family really with like people that, you know?
Yeah. Okay. But it wasn't just that. She was like, I remember she had a nose ring. And like I remember, I forget how she worded it, but she was like, "Are you okay with that?" Like
at Chipotle.
Yes. And so
this is so much funnier because
it was
at
like
Chipotle.
at that point where it was like, okay, this is kind of like a little much.
Did you go out with her again?
Yeah, we tried talking for maybe like a month, but she was weird. She said she like.
Fit.
She just said that she would like feel uncomfortable around me or whatever, but like I don't.
That's not nice.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck I did. Like it was just strange.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
then that's probably not like a great example of like.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at it though. She had never had a conversation with him and immediately asked, "What is this?" That is too soon.
After she DM'd me.
Categorically too soon to me. And
Yeah,
then-
because
and then
especially because she DM'd you.
immediately like,
Yes.
started treating it as it was like as if this was like you asked her out on this first date or whatever, and you were like, "Yeah, I want to date you," whereas you never really
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah.
You were just trying to have a conversation
Because I had never had an
because
actual
you had never had an
conversation.
actual
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
with her. That is
Yeah.
totally valid. I think that's a totally valid thing to want to do.
No, yeah, that's valid.
Yeah, and
Once
then-
I figured out
I
that
appreciate
part,
that.
validating you. No, yeah, but I think it's just frustrating as a girl that everything is so casual like that, like because I would wonder too. I mean, I don't know. Chipotle is kind of a crazy place for a first date, so I'd probably just be like,
Yeah.
But also, it's like when does the casualness stop, and when should someone be like cook me dinner or take me to dinner, like everything's just like, you know what I mean, like everyone,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going here, do you want to join, or like everything, like I think that, I don't know, I just think you can get down a rabbit hole of trying to keep it casual and never wanting to be the one person to break the
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if a man is really and truly serious about wanting to be serious with you, he will do something that will show you. And what I mean by that is he may not be the personality to take you on a super formal date. Maybe he's just getting started in the world. He doesn't have a lot of money. Maybe he like takes you on a picnic, or maybe he cooks like a really simple meal for you, or does something in a way that you should be able to tell by his personality that was a big step
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
For him. We can't just put these scenarios on people and be like, if he doesn't take you to a 5-star restaurant on the first date, he's not a good man. You can't do that.
Yeah, but I just think I'm just speaking more of like the intention behind action.
Exactly.
But it's
That's what I'm
like am I here with this guy right now truly because he was just gonna do it and he was like, I could use some company, or is it because he's doing that? He wasn't maybe not gonna do this, but he wanted an excuse to see me. Like if I tell a guy like, hey, I'm going to get coffee, would you like to do you want to join? I probably was like, how can I get this guy to hang out with me?
Exactly.
Okay, that's how. But how do you know if like the other person thinks that same way?
Gotta feel it out. I don't know.
Okay, let me tell you this. This was spring semester freshman year, okay? So there was like, I was in this group of friends that we started hanging out a lot, and there was a girl that I was starting to become interested in, right? Mm-hmm. And so we hung out for like pretty much the whole semester, and like I wasn't like really sure if I like wanted to ask her out or anything. But then I really started to like her a lot.
Just from like the group setting?
Yeah, from the group setting or whatever. And then like I wasn't sure how she felt. And so then I'm like, we're leaving home for summer, right? Like I'm driving from Texas to Florida.
Yeah.
And I get a call from her. She's crying like, oh my gosh, like I just miss you guys. Like I miss being around all you guys, whatever, right? Like I'm just gonna let that stand. So I was like, wow, okay.
You tell stories really well, by the way.
Thank you. So I get home, right? And I'm telling all my friends back home about this girl that like I'm interested in. And they're like, dude, you should tell her, bro. Like just tell her that just tell her you're interested. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I will. That night I called her and okay, wait, let me back up a little bit. I knew that she was already interested in another guy, but from my understanding, it wasn't serious at all. And that like, she was just kind of like feeling it out, whatever. And the fact that she called me crying, I was kind of like, okay, maybe I have a shot, or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Right? So I called her straight up and I was just like, hey, like, I just want to let you know, like, I'm into you and I just want to talk to you. Like, I just want to talk to you and get to know you on like a more intentional level, pretty much. Right?
Yeah.
Did she reject you? Why are you laughing?
Okay, no. Because it's wild. It's just wild how this happens. So she said, she was like, wow, like, I can't remember how everything she said on the phone, but she was like, well, I'm gonna, thank you for telling me. I'm gonna just give me like a little bit to think about it because this is like a big shock, whatever. So I was like, okay. Yeah, just let me know, whatever. Like, there's no pressure, whatever. I just wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I get a text from her later that night, probably like 2 hours later. And so it was this whole long text. I forget everything that she said, but she was like, so when you say like talk to me, are you saying like you want to talk to me like to like get married? Or like she went from 0 to 100, dude.
What?
Like it was like all of a sudden we're talking about marriage. And I was like,
And you don't even know if she likes you or not.
yeah.
Well, now you do.
Yeah. It was wild. And it was funny because she was like talking about how like a few weeks before that she was talking about how like she likes when a guy is very like intentional and like grabs the bull by the horns or whatever, right?
Oh, and she was telling you that or a group?
She had said that in the group. So when I did that, she was like,
Optics.
she was like, wow, like you really grabbed the bull by the horns. It was so like dumb, whatever. but yeah, like after that, we like texted for maybe a month throughout the summer, and then she just ghosted me.
Oh.
And then I got a letter in the mail from her in like July.
Like a love letter?
No, it was like, hey, I'm really sorry about everything. Like I'm sorry for ghosting you. Like
Wow.
I just didn't like feel, I don't know. But it was just that it was like I didn't care. It was just like, okay, whatever. Like I'm fine. I'm okay being single.
Yeah.
It was just that text that I got that she was like asking if I was wanting to talk to her to like marry her. And I just thought that was insane.
Yeah.
Is that not insane?
Well, I feel like a more valid question would have been like, it's early to ask that too, but like, are you meaning talking like working towards something more serious? Like I feel like she could have said
that would make sense.
But I don't think like those kind of questions, like, okay, you told her that you were into her very straightforwardly.
I told her I like you and I want to talk to you.
And
like
get to know you better.
Yeah, I want to get to know you more.
And so
instead of just like a group.
I think
thing.
After you guys talked for a while, and if she felt any confusion, that would have been the time to be like, so when you told me that, were you talking about, or like even now, are you thinking of moving somewhere more serious, or is this just more like laid back? Because I think, I think you can like people in a lot of different ways. True. And like, that's like, I might like someone in a more serious way than they like me. Mm-hmm. And they might treat me like they like me a lot, but they're not looking for the same thing as me.
True.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, but the word marriage this was in the book, the word marriage should not be used. I think it was like in the first like 3 to 4 dates. Even if you're like going to a wedding that weekend, you don't tell them you're going to a wedding because you don't want to identify marriage with you and scare them.
I might actually agree with that.
Right? I think I would agree with that, yeah.
I agree with that too. Even as a girl, like when guys make jokes like, oh, I love you, or like, oh, I'd marry you, and it's really soon, it's like, at first it's a little endearing and like, haha, but then it's like...
It's a little off-putting.
It is. It's so
like, how many people do you speak to like that? Or like, if you throw in the love word around, if we dated, how would I know when you actually love me? Because I know you don't love me right now.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah, but wait, that's crazy. I don't know, but I think that's why, and like the way you said she ghosted you, I think that's where all of this like lack of transparency comes from, because people like, it's uncomfortable, but people are too scared to be uncomfortable. They would rather just like horribly hurt someone by just letting them just wonder than just being straightforward and having one uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Literally, if she just would have texted me and was like, hey, I just don't think this is it. Like, then, okay. That's it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. But I mean, I could care less. I couldn't care less.
I mean, you probably cared a little. right?
I'm saying like looking back on it, like
Yeah,
I'm not
now in the
like,
grand scheme of
I can't
things, I
believe she
think
did that to
that
me.
could have also been a lot of like timing. But I think
Yeah.
a lot of dating is timing. And I think that everything's situational. Oh, I was going to ask you guys this. Like, also, what do you think the difference is like, so if I go and I meet a guy and we don't know anyone in common and we're like hanging out one-on-one versus if he's part of my friend group and he asked me to go get lunch. Like, do you think like there's a differentiation there between relationships?
Yes.
Like this could just be he's just your friend, but if he's hanging out with you one-on-one and you don't know anyone in common, like how do you know that he's not just looking for a new friend?
Okay, I
agree.
I think because like if it's the guy that's like in the group setting, I think you should make your intentions clear off the bat, because then there's no guessing. It's like because if it is just a friend that like you're all hanging out with all the time, then that question is there. It's like, okay, is he just asking me to go hang out because we're friends or whatever? I think the intention should be made clear.
Like, oh, I want to get to know, like you said, like I want to get to know you.
Yeah, because like
more.
Yeah,
but yeah,
because I could have asked that girl at any point, like, hey, do you want to go hang out, or whatever? Do you want to go get lunch? But I made it clear. I mean, I'm not trying to say that like what I did was,
perfect.
Yeah, like you should do this, but
so
I felt like because it just removed that question.
But the same thing is if you're hanging out with someone who you don't share a friend group with or friends in common, you could still like, how could you still know then that they're just like spending time with you because they like? How do you know that they don't just want a new friend? Do boys do that?
Not with females.
Not with females,
Really?
typically, no.
Anytime a guy takes time out of his day to interact with you at all, it is typically
Most of the time.
Most of the time, because he's like
Trying to feel it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's interested in some type of way and may not even know he's interested, but he is, for some reason, I just want to, I wonder how she's doing it. It could just be, it could literally be anything, but if he's taking time out of doing whatever else he could be doing and he's interacting with you in any way, that is typically, again, huge
He has to put the disclaimer.
Huge emphasis on typically.
So people don't come back mad because the one guy.
Not every guy.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I think that like after all of this conversation, the problem with our generation, I'm like, I've solved it. Our generation is dating, and like I'm guilty of it myself, and I kind of like when we were talking at Starbucks, you try and put every man into one category of this is how they're gonna act if they like me, and this is how they're gonna act if we're just friends. But truly every person I've met and interacted with, both on friendship levels and romantically, are so different that I couldn't put them next to each other and compare.
That's a great point. And I think a trait that you have that will really help you is you actually think critically, versus there's a lot of people who don't take time to parcel out these difficult questions. And the fact that you're willing to take time out inside of a relationship is a huge quality, because when these situations come up that could cause a fight, you're able to take yourself out of the emotions and critically think, man, what was he thinking about in this situation?
Yeah.
Could it have come across a different way? And then how can I communicate that to him without yelling at him? So just the fact that you're thinking about that is like...
It's a blessing and a curse though, because then you're going to be like...
You can overanalyze. I think you do have analysis paralysis right now. You are analyzing too much.
But it's so fun to analyze people's like psychology.
It is. It's
but I think that like it's good whenever it's maybe they said something negative, like did he really mean that? But it's like, oh, he says like, I don't know, like something so surface level, and you're like, well, did he mean that like this or?
Yeah, I do think you're right though. I think a big part of the solution is just to be clear with your intentions. I think that would just, and maybe figuring out the timing of that is like the more difficult part.
I think that's what's difficult, because
but at some point you have to.
Yeah,
you just got
for like
to.
your own sanity.
Yeah,
Yes.
and for the other person's sanity.
But you
too.
also don't want like who wants to always, okay, I especially like as a girl, like I don't always want to have to be the person, because I've come to this realization that I would prefer like transparency, but I don't always want to be the one who has to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing behind this book, is the way you date sets the precedence for the rest of the relationship and how you're married. And I do agree with that kind of in some ways. Like if you're always asking, you're making the move on him first, he's going to just expect that, and he's not going to be put in effort because he just expects you to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. It's not an easy it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing.
It really is. Like, why is it so complicated sometimes?
No, it's so bad, but I also just think that, like, if you, like, time with, like, each individual person, one way or another with time, even if you don't ask, you're going to figure out. Like, one person's, if he doesn't like you or she doesn't like you, she's just not going to reach out anymore. And then one person's, like, I used to always do this in college. I'd stop reaching out and see if they ever reach out to me again. That's one way to do it. You could be upfront and clear, but you're going to figure out one way or another. And I think when you, not to say that, like, when you meet someone who you're, like, meant to be with, it's going to happen immediately, but there's not going to be a time for it to fizzle out or anything like that. It's going to continue on one way or another, whether you're transparent and outward about it, or whether you sit back and wait and then you guys kind of figure it out. One way or another, I think if you guys are a good match, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, the thing that, this is just stupid and a small thing, but texting, dude. Like,
that's so true.
I cannot stand texting.
You hate texting?
I hate texting.
So you're not going to text a girl even if you like her?
No, okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. I hate texting just to text. Like
what's up?
Like, yeah, hey, what's up? What are you up to? And it's like, dude, I don't have time for that.
So if you like a girl, will you go a week without texting her, or 3 days because you just don't like to text? See, this is the things you have to look at, because he's like, well, he hasn't texted me in 3 or 4 days. Well, oh, it's okay. He's just not a texter.
Okay.
It's a whole can of worms.
That is a can of worms. No, if I liked a girl, like, I would reach out to her, like, occasionally. But
not every day.
But no, I mean, like, I don't want to have full conversations over text.
Because when you get
like
together,
about random stuff, you know, like, what's your favorite color, or, like, you know,
well,
like, I want to have those conversations in person, and I don't want to be on my phone while I'm with other people, and, like, and I don't even want that to be, like, on my mind when I'm trying to, like, just do life.
But yeah, I think I agree with that, and I think I've kind of changed that, and I've been able to pick up on that with other people, like recently I told someone, like, I can't wait to tell you. I'm just, like, scared he's gonna hear this.
So you can just, like, be super...
He was like, I can't wait to tell you what happened to me this week. And he was like, we live very near each other. Very, very near each other. So he said, okay, come tell me then. So then I went, and we had that conversation in person.
Yeah.
So I was like,
but,
and I you guys can tell I talk a lot. And when I was with him, I had, like, a list of things that I had thought about throughout that week that I was like, oh, I'm going to tell him this. Like, I was able to do that, and it was so much more fun, and I was able to see his reaction and laugh and keep the conversation going than texting. And this was someone who didn't text much. So I was like, if he would have been texting me all the time, we wouldn't be having this good interaction.
Yeah. You have all those conversations over text, and then when you're around the person, like, you've already talked about all of it.
And then, like, what do you talk about?
Yeah, now you're just, like, sitting there.
That's a good point.
And then you end up just watching Netflix for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, because with people that you don't text as much, you can sit there and talk for 4 hours and not run out of stuff to talk to, especially if you're first getting to know each other.
Exactly.
But if you're texting all day, what are you doing? What are you doing now? And you tell them every step of your day, you don't have anything to talk about.
Yes.
That's valid. But I just think that there's a whole stigma or can of worms behind texting, because he didn't text me, or, like, he didn't text me first and I had to reach out to him, and then, like, it's just so, like, you should never text first. It's just so...
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this might be our longest one.
Really?
Told you I talk
I
a
think
lot.
so. Yeah, I think so. No, you're a great conversationalist. Seriously.
Yeah,
Thank you.
this is great.
That's why I wanted you on, because not only do you think critically, but you also ask questions back, which just makes for a great conversation. And so I also want to say that, like, hopefully when this podcast gets bigger, I want like this to be a way people can actually like connect with other people, and also, I don't know, make great connections. And so I know you mentioned that you eventually want to get into medical sales. And so I just want to say, like, as
Thanks
we're
for
kind
the
of getting
plug.
towards the end of this, like, if you are in there, you know anybody who's in biomedical sales, hit up Carly, because she's clearly a great conversationalist. And
Yeah, even if it's just for like advice on how to get into it later on, or mentor, not necessarily just for a job.
yeah.
Thank you for the plug.
We'll link something like your Instagram, or we'll link something up.
Link my LinkedIn.
Yeah, we'll put your LinkedIn in the description.
How long have we been going?
I'm willing to bet it's probably like 2 hours.
No way.
Let's see what time it is. It's 10:22.
I told you. Yeah.
That's
I told
like
you.
that's over 2 hours.
Yeah, because
think
we
so.
started like probably 8-ish.
Yeah.
Probably.
Holy cow.
I told you.
It did not feel that long.
Yeah, good conversation.
Sorry.
flies. No, it's not.
Dude, that's what a good conversation
that's
is,
what
though.
a good
Yeah.
time flies.
Yeah, and you know,
conversation.
it felt like it had been like maybe an hour.
Yeah. So
Wow.
Good stuff, boys.
Good stuff.
I think people are gonna really enjoy this. I know one person, my sister. I'm gonna say this to my sister. I don't even think I've told her we've watched the podcast. She's gonna be so mad at me for not telling her. But I wanted to get some momentum first. Like, I wanted to get some people on that I would think she was interested in. But I think she's really gonna like this conversation.
Oh, I mean,
She's-
everyone likes talking about dating.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's really
interesting.
important
Yeah.
to have people. Okay, well, but not to stereotype everyone to be the same type of man, but to have a female's point of view and a
Yes.
male's point of view,
Yeah, for
in the
sure.
way like you're like, I hate texting, and that clearly upset me, and but we were able to like justify it, and I think that's just like that's just like never. We don't have, and I don't have interactions like this almost ever. I have maybe one friend who is like very similar to you guys, who you guys should probably meet, that is very just intentional and thoughtful, and I'll ask him questions like this, but like it's not every day that you get to like pick people's brains like this.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And I think
Yeah.
it's beneficial all around, and like to people who will listen, they'll be
Yeah.
able to benefit from it as well.
And I've seen some podcasts too where, I mean, it's fun to listen to. They're ones that like they have a bunch of, like, for lack of a better term, like TikTok girls on, and a lot of like trad guys, and it's just like they're just going at it, and I'm like, this is kind of entertaining to watch, but I'm not really gaining anything.
Yeah.
From this.
They're both just going at each other.
Yeah, and I'm
there's
like,
no like.
it's not a good conversation. It's just like,
no one's like really trying to find a solution.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I just wish there was more, frankly, conversations like this. That when I was younger, I wish I could have listened to more conversations like this, just because I think people learn through listening, even if it's not like, these are the 10 things that you should do to find your next guy. or
Really?
whatever,
Yeah.
that you learn
book
just
I'm
through
reading.
conversations. Honestly.
Well, I just think like all around, I wish there was more intention in
Yep.
everyone's lives. But I think that a lot of the way I think now has come from reading books and listening to people. Like, so I think that
Because you're curious. You're naturally curious.
Yeah.
And that's what you want this coffee shop to be, is a place where people can come and meet from all different circles and have these conversations, because that's healthy.
yeah,
It's healthy to have a community that does that, from all different religions, from all walks of life, different careers, businesses, family life, stories, whatever. You come together, and when there's a place, there's a community that's safe enough to have these kind of conversations, and there's a shared thing like coffee or whatever's popular at the time, then I just think some really cool conversations come out of it. But everyone seems to be substituting that with social media right now. And so we have this like epidemic where people are afraid to be intentional.
Wait, because that's another thing too that I was thinking when we were talking earlier. Everything social media, like, oh, he sent me an Instagram reel, he likes me, or like, oh, he liked my story. Like, they don't just do that if they don't, like, unless they like you. But it's just like ew, like ew. Like,
Yeah. That's it's gross.
and because like, yeah, like, I do think it is thoughtful when someone sends you a reel that, or like something that it reminded you of them, but it's just like the bare minimum of what we think is like, okay, he's interested in me. Like, it's just so like messed up right now. And I hope like by the time that if I ever have a daughter or a son, that we can fix this for them.
I agree.
I don't know if it's possible.
I don't know.
I don't know if it's possible, but like, yeah, it's bad.
It's interesting to me just because like I feel like this whole concept of dating, like the way that we date now, like as humans, is very different, or I guess I should say very new to the human race, right? Like.
True.
Compared to all of history, I feel like you couldn't, especially for like lower class people, you can just date whoever the heck you wanted to date, like whenever. It was very much like, especially if you're a girl, you were arranged most of the time.
Yeah.
To just a family, and that was it. Like,
or you were dating for at least another purpose other than love.
Yeah, money.
But yeah, as women have become more independent, then I think that's where this like power dynamic has come in.
Yeah, and we don't know what to do about it. Like,
no one knows what to do.
We're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Well, social media is relatively so new compared to
that too.
How long what you're talking about has been around. That dynamic, it's just so new, and people, it's changing so rapidly that it's just like paralyzing to keep up. You're just so like overwhelmed and overstimulated all the time that it's just so difficult to get out of that. It's like,
and I think it's hard too because you have to see everything. Like you see these couples that, have you guys ever heard this saying, like the couples that post on Instagram the most are the least happy?
Yes.
But you see stuff like that and you're like, well, they have this and this and this, and you don't know what's going on at home.
You have no idea.
Or you don't know if they're actually happy, but you're convincing yourself that, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have that?
Exactly.
And it's just sad.
I read a statistic that said most couples that text more are less happy.
He's a huge advocate for no texting. Okay. I do have a question though. So you don't like texting, but like, what about, would you rather just like pick up the phone and call a girl? Because that's another thing that's happened. That's aggressive now, apparently. Yeah. People find that as like, which sometimes me too. Like if I barely know someone, he's calling me, I'm like, I
gotta get myself ready for this call.
No, yeah, but it's just like so a normal thing to do. But it's just because texting is so easy now. Yeah. Everyone thinks calling is like taking another step.
Yeah, calling is more
formal.
Yeah, I'd say it's more formal, especially like as a guy.
Would you prefer that?
I don't think I really care.
But you don't
honestly.
Like texting? What about FaceTime? Because some people also hate FaceTime.
Okay, FaceTime, dude.
You hate FaceTime?
If I live 20 minutes away from you and you want to FaceTime me for 2 hours?
Yeah.
At 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah, no.
And we're literally just sitting there talking about nothing? No, I don't want to FaceTime you. Like...
What if you're far away?
Yeah, if you're far away, of course. Like if it's a long distance relationship, which I don't think I could ever do. That would suck. But my brother did it.
But that makes sense why you wouldn't be able to do it because you value so much in-person interaction.
Yes, I am very like, I don't know. I get very wrapped up within like what's going on like right now. Like,
see, but it's hard for girls to understand that because, like, if someone doesn't text me, I'm like, well, he hasn't thought of me, so he doesn't like me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But maybe he's just career driven, and when he goes to work, he doesn't think about girls and this and that, and that's good.
Well, I feel like I definitely think about it. Like, it'll be on my mind for sure. But
just because you're thinking about her doesn't mean you're going to text her.
Yeah, because I'm really big on being intentional with what I'm doing right now, like being present, which is like cheesy and cliche, but
no, I think that's good, and I think that's lost upon our generation.
Yeah.
Like one of my biggest pet peeves is like when you're trying to talk to someone and they're like texting, they're like,
it's
what?
Ridiculous.
No
yeah.
way.
And then they want you to repeat it, and then it's like awkward because you're too mad to repeat it. You're just like, it's fine, because if they wanted to listen, they listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good quality. I don't think I think you're kind of feeling like it's a bad quality, because it can be felt as a bad quality by a girl who likes you, and why doesn't he ever text me? But then when she's sitting in front of you and you're not on her phone, she's gonna love that about you.
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. So yeah, like it doesn't like the whole calling or texting. Like I don't really care what you want to do. You can text me or call me. It's just like if you're taking away from like just like my daily life, like just
I told you about this.
Okay, well, because when another person does that, it tells me that they have nothing else. It's like, what are they doing with their life?
Like the people that you can't hang out with without them FaceTiming their boyfriend or being texting.
Yeah, it's like,
the whole time.
well, it just makes you think like, what goals and like aspirations and things are you working for? Like, or are you like passionate about? Like, do you have nothing else to do than just sit and want to text me and like FaceTime me? Like,
yeah,
that is a red flag to me. So I don't know.
But see, like this, what I was saying is, I think that empathy and understanding, like putting yourself in someone else's shoes, cannot be overstated.
Yeah.
Because these questions you're asking are difficult to answer without a scenario. Because inside of the scenario, things become clear.
Yeah.
And so, like when we're asking Zach these questions, it's like, oh, it makes sense because that's how Zach perceives it. And so, if you're not taking time to try to put yourself in other people's shoes, then you can get things horribly wrong, even if they're quote unquote right for what you think you know. And so I think a great practical use of this is third person questions. Is asking.
Oh yeah, you did tell me this.
It's like, I was talking to this person the other day and they really said this about texting. Like, what do you think? And just genuinely asking them, and you get their answer without making them feel weird.
That was good advice. I told my friend about it today when we were talking. She was like, that's so smart.
It's a cheat
That is very
code.
smart.
But I think
I didn't get here without them.
I do think that like if you have if you're dating or seeing a girl with like the maturity that you want, she's gonna see that, because I've been like, he never texts me, and when I'm with someone, I pay attention. Is he on his phone a lot? And then I was like, I was just with him for 3 hours and I never saw him look at his phone. That's why he's not texting me back. Or like I noticed that his phone's on do not disturb a lot. That's why, because he wants to be present. Like, and if you have a girl that I think maybe has the maturity level you want, they're going to be able to pick up on that instead of just being like, why don't you text me?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So true. And I've been on the other side of it too, where after when COVID hit, I was talking to a girl, and everyone was getting kicked out of the dorms, so she was going home she was going back to Illinois for the summer. I was here, and so we had just started kind of like pursuing this thing, and so I was like kind of afraid, like, dang, like this thing just started, like we just got going.
That's
and
rough.
Now she's like going home. I hate long distance, but like there's like, she's probably gonna come back at the end of the summer. That's like 3-4 months. Could I do that? Maybe, probably. And then I was like worried that because it was so fresh and then this should be gone all summer, they should lose interest in me. And so I had that like fear, and I did kind of get afraid that like, what if we just like never talk? Like I hope that she texts me. And then I remember talking to a friend, and he was like, dude, if she wants to text you, she's gonna text you. And if not, then not. And I was just like, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. So why am I gonna waste my time worrying?
Yeah.
So if she doesn't want to text me, then she's probably not very interested. And then okay.
Yeah, I think it's easy to come to that conclusion, but it's hard to remember it. Like, I'll think that, and then I'll be like, but I want him to like me, Yeah. So I think
it's easier said than done, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. But that's the reality.
That's the reality. And if they don't like you, like we were talking about earlier, if they don't like you for you, then you don't want them, because
exactly.
It's
so
not
why
gonna
should
work.
you even try anymore?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well said.
Freaking dating, dude.
Dating.
Could go on all night about that.
Can't we just have all arranged marriages? Oh.
Yeah.
I do find that fascinating.
It's
though.
so interesting. It's because,
Arranged marriage.
You know why that is though? It's because they have to commit before they ever find feelings for each other.
Right. Which I think,
And that's why
there's something to that.
There is something absolutely to that. The
That
evidence points to
statistically they end up happier.
Yes.
I think that is interesting to me.
Yeah, whether you agree with it or not, you have to look at the evidence, I believe. And I think that the fact that the commitment comes first speaks a lot to a Western world and a generation that is pretty much allergic to commitment.
Yeah,
But-
I was going to say that earlier
It
too.
could not be
Yeah.
farther from.
Commitment is scary.
But you guys know all of these statistics and stuff, and look at the way you reacted to when that girl said, so what is this when we're going to Chipotle? Or wait, did you mean like for marriage?
I know.
That scares you. But
Yeah, I know.
But you guys are kind of saying like, maybe if the commitment came first but it's like.
I'm just saying it's interesting.
I know,
Like,
I know.
just find it
I know, but
fascinating.
if you like,
Good point.
but everyone but now everyone thinks taking it slow is the way to go, and it's good so you can like get to know them first, but it's like
At some point, and because we're talking about it in the scope of our culture, and so what we're trying to do is work within our culture's bounds, and then we're like comparing it to a whole other culture. So
Yeah.
no one in our culture would treat the way we date as an arranged marriage. So it like doesn't. It's like, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that. But if you got arranged married and you grew up knowing that you were going to get your marriage was going to get arranged, you're not surprised.
yeah.
Did y'all see that Netflix show?
Bridgerton?
Huh? What was it?
Is that what you're talking about?
What?
Bridgerton?
Bridgerton?
Have y'all not seen Bridgerton?
No. I'm saying it's like it was all these psychologists, I think, got together and they had like a big group of people, like guys and girls, and based on their personality traits, they
I haven't seen it, but I heard.
Okay, yeah, they
Matched them
arranged
up.
their marriages. And so these people
Wait, did they arrange
they
full
arranged the marriages.
I thought it was just dates.
Yes. No, not dates. They arranged the marriage.
Was it like the first time they met them was at the aisle?
I want to say yes.
Okay, I did see that.
Yeah. It was a
that
wild
go?
show.
They had
need
the
to watch
first time
it.
they met each other was on the altar.
On the altar, like, yeah.
No, not happening.
It's wild, and that's wild to us because we don't do that. We don't live in
I
a
don't-
culture that does that.
I don't think I would ever want that.
Yeah, but if you grew up in a culture where you knew that you were going to be married off every day of your life,
Then you'd
It's
just
not
be
a
like,
surprise.
yeah.
and everyone else you knew who did that,
Yeah.
but to us it's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we have a friend who's this should be really interesting to hear. We have a friend who is in America, grew up in America, in Texas, and went to college with him, and he's also Indian. And so he's told me before that his parents have said, like, you know, by the time you're this age, like 26 or 27, if you haven't found someone, then we're going to find someone for you. So you have
I knew a guy like that too.
This interesting thing where you have these like two cultures come together. And it's like, what do you do? That's my diabetes alarm.
Yeah, no, I think that's true, but I think like your culture, just everyone's culture, like if you're dating someone from a different culture, it makes it harder too, and like it can be different in other ways too, just like the way like other cultures treat relationships.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. It'll turn off eventually.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's a good point because I know, or like people that are Mormon, like they're like our age and be like, they should be married by
Yeah.
now, and they feel pressure to be like real pressure. Because I know like there's a lot of pressure just culturally for us, at least. That's the only culture I really know very well. But to have found someone by a certain age because you want to have kids by 30 and this and that. I think also though, one of the things that allowed me to mature the most is I've never been like a Pinterest wedding girl, or like I don't think about where I'm going to get married, when I'm going to get married. And I think it's kind of really crazy when people do, because I'm not going to plan where I'm going to get married before I know who I'm going to get married to, because then that's me putting all these expectations onto a future husband who he might have plans of his own of where he wants to get married, or we should come to that conclusion together. But I think people, the one thing I think about sometimes is like who I would want as a, like, standing in my wedding as a bridesmaid. That's a normal thought. That's just like the people, that's just people who are close to me, like who do I feel like, I think that's something I'm going to take very seriously when I get married, but I do not give a single thought. Is it going to be a destination? Is it going to be,
It's impressive.
Yeah, but it's just like, or like what dress am I gonna wear? I don't even think about that. I don't look at rings. Because whenever I don't have anyone to, when I do that, I want to be having like my boyfriend in mind and being like, this is how our wedding's gonna be, not my wedding, our wedding.
Wow. I think there's a lot of girls who would disagree with you.
No, and that's okay, because people grow up looking forward to wearing the beautiful wedding dress.
Yeah.
And I think, like, when I go to weddings, and I don't go that often, but when I do, I like remember this last time I went to a wedding. I just remember thinking, like, I can't wait for my experience and to see what it's going to be like. But I don't like, personally, I don't want to sit there and be like, well, I'm going to get married here and this is how it's going to happen and know how it's going to happen. I want it to just come organically, naturally. And then everyone's going to be happy, and we're going to compromise and make it the way that it should be for the two of us, not just because the girl dreamed of having it this way since she was 5. Hot take, but
no, I think I am 100% on board with you.
I think a lot of my like,
Yeah, of course you are, though, because you're a guy.
yeah, but I just think that, like, I have friends that are like, I need to be married by 26 because I want to be having kids by 28, and that is a scary thought, especially with the way, like, fertility is for women, with everything going on, like, in our environment or what we eat or whatever it is that's making all those problems. That is a scary thought, but I'm not gonna put that pressure on myself or, like, the person I start dating. Like, imagine if I'm 25 and I'm start dating someone, and in my head I'm like, well, we need to get married next year.
True.
Whether he likes it or not.
Yep.
So it's just like, true. I think we need to move away as a society from the timeline of it all. Everyone has a different timeline. You're 23 and married, and I'm sitting next to you, and I'm 23 and very single, and we're both where we should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I just don't think people know that. And like you said, you were scared to get judged for getting married. But, like, whenever you told me you were married, I was not like, already? I was like, tell me more. That's awesome. And like, I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that, like, that didn't make me feel like I'm behind. It just made me feel like you reached that point in your life before me, and that's just what was meant for you two.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think just people can't understand that.
Exactly. They can't hold that tension between this can be okay without me doing it.
Yeah.
They can't hold that. They're like, literally can't.
Yeah.
They're like, I have to make this person wrong.
Yeah. But also, I think, devil's advocate, it might also be like I couldn't imagine myself being married right now. So they just can't. I have trouble, like, sometimes understanding something's going to actually happen to me if I haven't experienced it. I think that's just, like, human nature.
Yeah.
But like if some people might just be like they might be really immature, and they were like, oh my gosh, I could never be married right now. So that could be also where it comes from.
True. It's just going to keep going off. So I think we should probably call it. But thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks for having me.
Check out Carly. If you sell or know anybody who sells medical devices, hit her up. See you later.
There's a clap.
That's how you're going to line it up?
Right there. Yeah.
You're going to go all the way to the end?
All right.
That was awesome.
Good stuff.
That's exactly. Here, can you press
That was a
this?
fantastic conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you that you would enjoy this. Ready? Ready? You gonna
Oh,
click with me?
yeah.
3, 2.
I want to talk to you. Not now. Later. No, now.